Cushman, the legend in the plans. Please listen every day to the showcase. The opinions and knowledge that anyone can take. Showing you how it is done. Proving I am number one. What a legend becomes. This is now my time to show you that I am here. This podcast just to make it loud and clear. By the fans, for the fans. Not many whose head can understand everything pro wrestling. It can never be you. Listen to the podcast here for the people. The best show that's here, so listen in. Let the knowledge begin. The opinion and the lesson. Yes.
Folks, welcome to Everything Pro Wrestling. Everything Pro Wrestling is a show by the fans, for the fans. I am your host, Conrad Cushman. Joining me today is my brother from another mother, Mr. Bryan Williams. What's going on, Bryan?
What up, Conrad? How you doing, brother?
Hanging in there, man. Still dealing with this usual BS that we got going on right now.
Yeah, brother, I feel you, man. This is the week that is really, this whole, self-isolation, quarantines really start to kind of fuck with me a little bit. So I'm glad, but you know what? I always look forward to these Tuesdays when me and you can get together. Give me something to look forward to.
Damn right. And speaking of something to look forward to, something that I know everybody looks forward to every single week when we do these, here comes the intro, guys.
Everything pro wrestling, they can never be you. Listen to the podcast here for the people. The best show that's here, so listen in. Let the knowledge begin. The opinion and the lesson. Yes. Everyday pro wrestling.
All right, guys. Hopefully you guys are digging that intro by my man Montezzi. He just had an album come out, Humble Beginnings. If you guys haven't checked that out, go on YouTube and check it out, man. He's got Leo Rush on it, Isaiah Swerve Scott. Actually, he's really dope at spitting. Big Swole's on there. It's a connection of NXT, AEW people. It's a really dope album, so make sure you guys check it out and give him some support. Bryan.
Whoa, Isaiah. Shane Strickland, he spits?
Oh, yeah, he spits fire, bro. Listen,
I'm
going to give you guys a little sample piece. So I interviewed Montezzi a year aago, and this is right around the time he released it. My favorite song on the album is probably still Broke Boys. That's B-O-I-S. And Broke Boys just resonates with me, man, because as you can see, I'm not the richest man in the world. I live in a small house. That's it. I'm just trying to make it. But that song just hits home, man, when you don't have any money, when you got to take the bus, when you ain't got nothing good going on. It just hits home, man. And it gives you a reason to feel good. So, yeah, I'm telling you, Bryan, check it out, man, if you haven't.
No, I definitely will. I love Homeboy in the ring. So if he's as good in the ring as he is on the microphone, I'll definitely check him out.
Trust me. Yeah, he retweeted me twice in the past 2 days. So, yeah, he's definitely really dope, though.
Oh, nice.
But, Bryan, we're here to talk about WWE'12 today and WWE'13. I have this labeled kind of as the end of an era, so we're going to probably really be getting into this and, going through all the discussion points with everything else that's going on in the wonderful world of video games and wrestling. WWE'12.
Yeah, I will say, though, before you get into 12, the end of the era, honestly, was more actually probably WWE'14, but 13 were definitely close enough to the end.
Yeah.
Honestly, it starts with 12 even, so yeah.
See, maybe I'm looking at it from a consumer standpoint, and I guess we'll get into that towards the end of this, so that'll be your piece to make you want to stay around. But WWE'12, Bryan, when I say that to you, a lot of the fans here are in love with the SmackDown versus Raw games. I actually had somebody just send me a picture of trophies, and it was like Yuke is kind of like the person getting the trophies, and it had all the SmackDown versus Raw games in front of it. And he was like, is this the greatest streak of wrestling video games ever? And I said, yes, but I would replace that SmackDown versus Raw one for a streak that was there. I got to see if I can find it. Rob sent it to me before this.
Yeah, I'll have to check that out myself.
It was on Twitter. It was just someone, just being goofy. Where is it? Oh, no, you know what? I think it was on Facebook.
I like goofy.
Here we go. I don't know if you will be able to see this as much as everyone else at home, but I'm putting my phone up. So it's got Yuke's surrounded by a bunch of trophies, Bryan, and you got Shut Your Mouth, Here Comes the Pain, SmackDown versus Raw, 06 and 07 all lined up, and it's the Lakers in the background. So I'm sure, you know what? I'm going to save this and send that to you.
Yeah, please do. Please do. I
I'm
gotta check
sending it
that
to
out.
you right now as we speak. This is live on air. We're live, people. I don't care.
All right. Yeah, I got my phone right here.
Here. So that way Bryan can see this picture. I don't know if I feel that's true, though, man. I always tell people that I feel like 2K14 should be in there. And I know we're going to talk about that next
hell
time.
Yeah.
But I feel like that game should be in there instead of the SmackDown versus Raw one. That one disappointed me a little bit out of that streak.
Oh, this is dope, yo.
Yeah.
Oh, I love this shit.
Bryan's future picture right there.
Yeah. Oh, I'm saving this bad boy. Oh, good work. Who did this?
No, Rob just found it, I think. Unless Rob made it. I don't know. I'll have to ask him on a personal tip. But
well, until further notice, Rob's getting the credit for creating this.
Oh, okay, good. You can have all the credit, Rob.
Good job.
WWE'12 though, it's gone. SmackDown versus Raw, the name is eliminated. It's finished. It's done. How did you feel about that at the time when they were doing that?
I felt good about the change, about the rebranding. I mean, especially because the SmackDown versus Raw name, it always sounded cool, but I mean, it was never played up in any significant way. And by the time we get to WWE'12, I think with like SmackDown versus Raw 11 and maybe even starting with 10, the rosters really weren't as separate as they were. I mean, they were. What was it? It was probably in 11 where they went and just did the the Raw Super Shows.
Oh, bro, listen, I'm really about to burst the bubble. I was gonna let you talk first, but I'll burst it now. Let me tell a lot of people something. There's a lot of people who I saw making like SmackDown versus Raw video game design covers. Like they need to bring this back like they used to have it. Changing the name of the game is not going to change anything if you still have the same BS behind it. Number one. Number two. The SmackDown versus Raw games, we were pleading, I think, by 10 to not have that as the name anymore. We're like, yo, just call it WWE whatever. We were just trying to keep it simple. I remember Marcus said he was pushing hard for like the name change a little bit, and it finally happens here.
Yeah, no, I mean, exactly. It just, the name didn't fit. I mean, our games were, they encapsulated WWE, all of WWE, from the previous year. So, the whole SmackDown versus Raw name, like I said, as cool as it was when it started, and I still like the name, but it never factored into what we did year over year. So I think rebranding is calling it WWE, and the year was just a better descriptor for what it was that you were going to get. So I like the name change. I think when Corey presented it to us, the designers, I mean, we were all yeah, okay, yeah, about time,
Yeah, now, how did you feel about the move to only PS3? Like, as a developer, you guys were producing that game for PS2 for a long time. And in my opinion, PS2 is one of the greatest, video game systems ever. So yeah. I understand a lot of people and why they're in love with it and why they think it's the greatest. But how does it help you as a developer or hurt you as far as making these games? So you only had PS3, Xbox 360, and Wii this time.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah. You guys cut them all out at this point.
Oh wow, I'm glad you remembered that. I'll tell you this. Anytime, during the console transition, like when we went from 360 or PS2 to then with SmackDown vs. Raw 2007 to 360, it's just more work for everybody to support both SKUs. Now, that being said, I mean, when we get deeper into the 2K talks, where the games, become radically different gameplay-wise, then the work becomes even that much greater. But at this point, I mean, we all kind of felt. I mean, for me personally, at this point, it was I wasn't, I had fully committed to, the 360, the PS3, and making the game, it definitely got the focus. For sure. I mean, anything that I did and all the designers, everything we did was first and foremost for the current SKU, which was the 360 PS3. And of course, we check the PS2 and all that, or we did. But yeah, it was, it was just not having to worry about the PS2 just kind of was one less stressor on the design team. So as much as it probably, I know the people who maybe didn't upgrade their consoles at this point, that might have sucked for them, and I'm I feel you on that. But for me personally, it was okay, let's fully just focus on these current gen, systems. Let's do it. So I was kind of happy about it, to be honest.
Man, listen, if you didn't have a PS3 or 360 by that time, bro, come on, man. Get it together. You had sets. By the time after 9, I was surprised still. And once we got to 11, I remember my little cousins had the PS2 version of it. I'm like, bro, upgrade, man. Come on.
But not everybody's a baller like you, Conrad.
Nah, man, but I'm like, get
they're...
some good grades, man. Tell your mom you want a new system. Trade that dusty-ass PS2 in and do something with yourself. Let me show some love to the chat, too. If you guys see me looking down on the YouTube video, blame YouTube because the chat section is not working properly so that I can see what you guys are saying. But Original Biggie's in the chat. What's going on, brother? And he said good evening to you as well. OB1, thank you for putting Justin Leeper's YouTube channel in there as well. Make sure you check Justin Leeper out.
Yeah.
This is after his time, but I'm sure he would have some great things to say about some of the coding in this. Rob's in the house. So let me see. Thomas Polster, good to have you in here, brother. I know it's a late night for you. Let's see. Derek's in the house. What's good, D? Donnie, I see you with the fire emojis, giving us the too sweet. I appreciate that.
Nice. Yeah, brother. Right back at you.
Foul Original Wrestling's in here as well. What's going on, Foul? He said we're already at 12. He's so surprised. It's flying by, bro. I'm telling you. I remember at first I was like, oh, we're going to be doing this for weeks.
I know, right? Yeah, I was tripping out too. I'm like, damn, we're getting close to the end here.
PR Nightmare is in the house as well, and B-Boy Skyline just joined, and Prince Rockstar. B-Boy Skyline said Dreamcast is the GOAT. I love Dreamcast for the simple fact that you could put plays on there for like football video games, because I hate screen watching. Most of you online cats don't know what that is, but like you would watch me pick the plays. You know the 3 plays I got up, so you can see what's happening. But that was one of the best things about the Dreamcast controller, but I don't think it was there. What's good, Malik Gordon? Just saw you pop in as well. We got a lot of people showing up.
I love the Dreamcast. That's one of my favorite all-time systems.
What was your game for it, though? And don't tell me Royal Rumble.
No. Actually, it was Street Fighter. What was it? Street Fighter 3, Third Strike, and then Capcom versus
Marvel.
Yeah.
Okay. That was dope, man. I used to like Shinobi, I think, was on there too. They had some good games back then. They had some things that they could mess with.
The Dreamcast was ahead of its time, man. It really was.
I can definitely agree with that. Let's see here. Oh, unique memory card for the Dreamcast. I hear you guys. Man, people are on a Dreamcast binge. Let's get back to WWE'12. Make sure if you guys come in here, hit that like button for me. Helps out with more people being able to see this. We just went over the name change and what systems you guys created it for. And, dude, just so weird, man, that the brand split was non-existent and people were doing all that. And you brought up in the SVR06 part of the series before the Brock Lesnar pre-order bonus. Do you have any knowledge of how that came to be this time, or did you think it was a pump fake again? Like, man, is he really signing this time, or what's good, man?
Oh no, we knew he had signed by this point. We knew that he had made his return to WWE. So, I mean, I'm a big Brock fan. So for me, it was just cool to have him back in the game. Because like I have he was such a beast, and Here Comes the Pain. You know what I mean? And it was just really cool that he came back and we were able to get him into the game this year, and he's been a part of every game since. So. This was his return, just like the Macho Man, has become a recurring legend in the game. So is now Brock.
Brock Lesnar was amazing to finally have back, and he was in like his 03 form in this one too. So I just thought it was really cool to have him back. We all knew at the time, UFC, if you guys watch MMA as well, Brock Lesnar was suffering from diverticulitis. He wasn't going to be able to go anymore after he had lost the title, and I saw those last 2 fights where Brock went down kind of hard. I mean, I give him credit for going in there. He's a tough SOB. I wouldn't have did that, but Brock's still a beast, bro. I think he can still jack some. He's one of the few people in wrestling that I'm legitimately afraid of. Like, if I had to fight him, I'd be like, all right, let's do this. And I would probably say something super wild before I know I'm about to get beat down, because that's all I got.
But it's going to be a hell of a payday, though.
Exactly. Man.
I love Brock Lesnar, man.
Yeah, dude, he's one of my favorites. I don't understand a lot of the hate that he gets sometimes for his style in the ring, but Brock Brock's an attraction, man. He makes you want to watch anything, and I think that was a smart pre-order bonus for you guys here. Bryan, let's talk gameplay here for the game.
Yeah.
Now, WWE'12, this Predator system, you can change transitions and moves. What happened? I think original Biggie had a question about this. He said Predator the physics system, Predator system. What happened, Bryan? Like,
all right. So look, man, this whole Predator tech. I know that they use it to hype and sell the game. As someone who worked on these games up until this point and after, it was it's marketing verbiage, honestly. Like the Predator tech, honestly, it didn't affect anything that we did as designers. I mean, as far as like any change to the engine, I mean, it really wasn't one. It was one of the biggest things that we did, and it was more or less just a creative direction, which we could have done anyway, was we wanted to get rid of a lot of the warping in the game. Like when you did a certain move, instead of, you do a certain action and like, what was it? SmackDown vs. Raw 2009. And I think even 2010, like when you went to break up a pin, it would show this really cool cutscene of the guy actually, hitting the guy on the back. And then, the pin is broken up. That was created by warping the characters into place. And I know that Corey was really big about trying to eliminate all those instances. And as far as like I'm concerned, like for me, that was like the biggest change from 11 to this, because the Predator tech. I mean, I remember when I was promoting this game, I would get asked about that, and I'm like, fuck if I know. I mean, it was still the same engine. It was just they made some changes to the engine, but it wasn't anything that all that significant, if I'm being honest. And they just came up with this cool marketing, verbiage to go along with the guy on the cover, which was Randy Orton. So
tough. Man. I see the 2011 Best of Game Critics Award nominee and everything. I got the cover right here too. I saw you bust yours out, so I had to get mine out and take a look at it, man. The bigger, badder, better. You guys always came up with something like really cool to say and go through for that. The camera angles was another big thing with this one. You guys tried to really reflect WWE television again with the movement of the camera angles, and they kind of showed how a real match would play per se to the camera. You guys did that very well. Interrupting moves was a big thing that came into play here as well. It's hard to think, man, that you could not interrupt moves before this. Like, I can't even imagine at this point.
Yeah, so you're right, and that was another thing that we added. Being able to interrupt moves, and it is weird. As I've been going back, because like I'm so used to it now, but since we started this series and going back and playing 2006, 07, that was one of the first things that stood out to me when I was doing these multi-man matches. Is just all the AI just waiting around for the sync move to finish because they couldn't do anything anyway. And that really stood out like a sore thumb. So it was definitely nice to, be able to finally have move interruptions. Sometimes it could be annoying, but I'd rather have that than just see the AI standing around as waiting for me to complete my move. It's like please, sir, I'll allow you to finish, and then I'll engage. It was like, this isn't wrestling.
And you wanted to create those cool moments. Like, how many times did The Rock do the people's elbow, and then you saw like Shawn Michaels super kick him, or that's what you wanted to recreate when you were doing all that stuff. So
exactly.
I thought that was dope. A positive thing that I liked from this was limb targeting. Targeting came into play here, so I thought that was really, really dope.
That was my baby. I designed that. I am the designer of limb targeting. This is something that I've been wanting to get in the game for years, up until 12 when I finally got the green light. Like when I first joined the team, during development of 06, and you would see the limb damage meter up on the screen, and it just screamed out to me. It's like, okay, well I love the fact that we have this health divided by the part of the body that's being damaged. And as a wrestling fan, and as it just felt like an easy and obvious thing to do to implement some kind of functionality where, as a wrestler, you could pinpoint the body part that you wanted to attack. And especially if you're playing as someone who's got a submission, if you want to attack the arm, because sometimes depending on how the moves are arranged in the move set, it can be kind of difficult trying to remember where your strikes or grapples are mapped to where they inflict damage on the arm, the leg. So being able to have the limb targeting where you can actually make a conscious decision and effort to, I'm gonna attack the head, I'm gonna attack the leg to wear that down from an ankle lock or whatever. I was just really glad to finally see this implemented. And again, it's one of those features that it stayed in the game. It's in the game since. I mean, I don't know what's going on after 20, but I think it was in 20. I haven't played 20, but I think it was still in there.
Yeah, I think they kept it from what I've seen from other people playing it. Because I still have not yet even picked up the controller to remotely look at that at all.
Yeah, I can't do it.
Same. It's just... Anywho, the limb targeting system. One question I always wanted to ask you about this was the end game going to be that somebody would hold their legs? Like, that's something I missed from some of the games in the past. I think it was No Mercy's engines or whatever, where you would work on the leg long enough, then they kind of hold their leg and like limp along a little bit.
We had that. We had those motions.
You had some of them, but I felt like they slowly started to go away. Like in the beginning, it was just like they would hold their head only. And then they really never got to the point to where it was like the leg was affected. Like we were thinking maybe you work on the leg, they can't run. You work on the arm, they can't body slam you or pick you up. Was that ever like the end game with it? Is that where you wanted to go?
Yeah. In fact, it's funny you bring this up because I think so in this game 12, like when I designed the feature, like I designed, repercussions pretty much for working a leg. I'll use a leg for example. If you got the leg to red damage, which is like critical damage, if that superstar, if that wrestler was trying to run with that damage, they would, randomly, it's like a probability thing that we had implemented. They would like just collapse onto the mat. It didn't happen all the time, but we had these things in place where, it would affect the wrestler with that damage. And I know that if you attacked the arm and got that in a critical, it reduced the effectiveness of their submission ability, and certain things like that. And those things slowly started to fade away as we got into like, the later games. But I know in 12, those features were definitely in there for the limb targeting system.
Now, Peter,
if you boot it up, you can go into like the, maybe they weren't as obvious as they could have been, but they were definitely there. Cause it's explained in the tutorial, that text tutorial that we had in lieu of the training arena, which I missed after having played so much of SmackDown vs. Raw 11.
Yeah, they had a training arena in this one though, didn't they? I think they had another one. I want to say there was one for oh man, I can't remember what video. Oh, you know what? Maybe that was 13. Maybe that was 13. I was thinking of like a created arena. No, in a created arena maybe. I can't remember now. Yeah. Maybe I'm wrong. I can't remember. Maybe I'm mixing up 11 and 12. These games start to blend together at this point. From like 11 to 13, I'm kind of always just like, what feature was where? Original Biggie, though. I'm looking at people's comments. PR Nightmare first, I'm sorry, said he was happy that you're not censored, Bryan, that you're being real. So, yeah, Bryan can say what he wants.
That's the whole point of this series is, I'm being real. Just one designer, as someone who worked on this franchise for as long as I did, I'll talk about the cool things that I did towards the franchise and the things that I did that maybe weren't so great. But no, this is me being as honest as I can be.
Yeah, and Derek's censored for a reason, so just remember that when you guys listen to the AEW Dynamite review. I always got to tell them, you got to pump your brakes on some of the stuff you say, D. You can't go out here tripping. Original Biggie said that he thinks that those changes you mentioned before, Bryan, hurt the physics system, like falling off ladders, weight collisions, and everything else when you guys made the change. And he said he's a big fan of the limb targeting. He said, imagine that physics system with SVR 11, plus imagine doing things like DDT on a steel chair.
Yeah, I know. I get asked a lot, and I think we might even touched on it last week about why the physics engine that we had in SmackDown vs. Raw 2011, like why that wasn't carried over. And yeah, man, I still don't have a good answer for that. I know that for me, it's like, when we do a game, it's like, okay, we work all year towards one game. That game is done, whether there's DLC, supported, boom, 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 and then it's on to the next. And a lot of times it's like it's almost like, okay, well, that was that game. This is this game. There are just certain things that, you expect to be carried over. I don't remember being in any meeting where, any decision was made one way or the other about that. But it definitely, and at the same time, you're like, for me and the other designers, like, we're in our own, we're doing our thing and working on our designs while there's other, decisions being made above us. And maybe that was something that Corey decided upon, or, maybe it was something that the guys at Yuke's, thought that maybe it was so much work and da-da-da. It's like, it'd be easy if we could just kind of scale back in order to get this other stuff done. I really don't know, but I actually did reach out to my boy Chihaya-san, who works, my coworker now at Yuke's, to ask him about that, to see if he has any memory of why we scaled back on the physics from 11. And he hasn't gotten back to me yet, but I'm sure he'll have an answer for next Tuesday show, so we can bring it up then. But no, it was definitely missed. And again, it's for me having playing these games again. Like, I had to play 12 and 13 to gear up for this episode, but I can't tell you how much I just wanted to pop in 11 again and play another ladder TLC match, because that shit was fucking dope, man. And I wish I would have raised a red flag and just saying, look, people like this. But at the time, I don't know, it just didn't feel like we were getting the kind of positive feedback about that feature as hindsight has kind of presented and shown, to me especially. So not a great answer for that, but
no,
yeah.
It's what it is. And sometimes I think fans, even like myself, going back to like my ignorant days thinking back then, I would just think you guys would copy and paste the game over, and then you're just working like, okay, let's get these new models ready, let's get a new feature or two in. Like, that's how you think it works, but it's not anything like that at all.
No, but honestly though, it should work that way to a certain degree. But I know with this project, it did not. And that is one of those things that really did come to bite us in the ass. And that is more than likely due to the fact of the engine that we had been working on was an old one, and we never really had the time to make any drastic improvements to the engine. Because honestly, people always say, it's like, oh man, you guys could just take, a couple years off, a year off to kind of really, take your time with the game. Like, in doing that, you can then create a brand new engine where you can account for a lot of these things that were problematic for us, because it wasn't as easy as just like, okay, well, here's 11 and now we're doing 12. So yeah, we can just basically piggyback off it. The way that the engine was constructed, it just wasn't that easy. And there was a lot of work that had to be done to port all that brand new stuff into the next year's game. Because there are always brand new things that you have to account for, like small things even, whether it's a new lighting system for entrances, updates to the models. Like, there are all these things that you then have to account for that just adds to the cost of bringing in all these other features. And like I said, that was what we were dealing with. But, this is also one of those things that, internally at Yuke's, that as we're hopefully gearing up for our next project, these are all of the lessons that we're learning, that we learned from working on the WWE franchise, that we're taking into this, our next endeavor, so that it won't be the same sort of situation.
And Bryan, I think that's wonderful that you brought that up, and this is actually a really good conversation for today's day and age problems in the wrestling games. I see so many people unsure of what's happening, but there's one thing that I constantly heard from all the big YouTubers, from Smack Talks to anybody else involved in this game, that they need to take a year off. Like, they bit off more than they could chew. They thought they could do what you guys did before at Yuke. It's harder than it looks, right, bro? Have fun with it. And I think that they just bit off more than they could chew when it comes to it.
Yeah, and on the next episode, when we talk about WWE'15, I definitely have some parallels that I'd like to mention about that, where it's like, but yeah, that'll be for next week's episode. But yeah, no, you're right. Time off definitely is something that just would have just been such a blessing for us, and it sounds like it would have been even a bigger blessing for Visual Concepts. But they had to do a job. They were given the time to do it, and I'm sure they did. They did what they could, you know.
Right.
But yeah,
I agree with that. I gotta get back to some of these comments here. Rob said holding her leg like Greg Jennings when he put his team on the back. I don't know if you've ever seen that YouTube video with the where the Madden player holds his leg. Cross the plane, boss.
Yeah, I see
with
that.
Gumby. Yeah, I got you, Rob, for trying to be funny. He sometimes if you see me laughing, it's because of the comments in the chat. PR actually has my next point up, so I had to give him props for this. He said that he loved the limb targeting. We start with the positive, but now we got to get to the breaking point submission system. This was buns, is what I have in my notes. This system was trash, bro. I don't know why you guys went to this. Maybe it was to be simplistic, but any thoughts on the submission system?
I do. Yeah. It's not what I wanted. I actually was fighting for something different. Because when the design, so Yuke put the design together, and I provided feedback. Corey got involved. He provided feedback. My biggest thing was that, so one of the biggest things that we added was the ability to crawl, right? Mm-hmm. So if you're in a submission, you can crawl towards the ropes to try to get a rope break. I was glad that was in there, but I was pushing back against the button mashing, because my whole thing was, if we're trying to, market and say that we have a new, submission system, this really isn't it. Outside of being able to crawl towards the ropes, I mean, we're just going back to what we had before. And, I was really trying to, not pressure, but I was championing just something different, trying to think outside the box, especially when it came to the crawling. Like for me, I wanted to have a situation where you basically choose to either crawl or to try to struggle free. But it was one of those things, like a strategic thing you had to do in the moment, where it's like, okay, I'm in this submission. How close am I to the ropes versus can I make it to the ropes if I choose to crawl versus, rather try to break free. I wanted those two options to be separate. And I also wanted the ability that if you were crawling, that as you're playing that mini game, if you fail at it, the attacker could then pull your ass back to the center of the ring. You know what I mean? And these are things that I had put forward, and I ultimately got vetoed because it was, again, due to cost, due to, well, we just got to get this done. It's something that the fans know, and and it was like, we'll just group it all together. We'll do the button mashing. If people want to crawl, they can just move the left stick, and that's the simplest way to do it. And I was like, all right, it's simple, but it's not going to be what the fans want. It wasn't what I wanted, because for me, it's like, this isn't new. I mean, you put a new meter up there based off that pay-per-view they had, but the functionality-wise, it's the same old thing. And I'm always trying to, or I strive to, I don't always hit it, but as a designer, especially when it comes to wrestling games, because like there's so many tried and true gameplay mechanics. Like for kicking out of pins, it's mashing the buttons. That's why I know some people don't like it, but that's why I liked our kick-out meter. Submissions, going back to button mashing after we had the analog stuff, which again wasn't the greatest, but at least we were trying to do something different. And I didn't feel that going back to the tried and true was gonna, excite anybody, because it didn't excite me. And now I kind of use that as a barometer to what I think the fans are gonna dig, because if I'm not excited about it, and I'm a fan, I play these games when I go home. The same games that I'm working on, like I play them, and it's like, if it doesn't entice me, it's like it's not going to entice everybody else. So I wasn't a big fan of it, but I can present my feedback and I can kind of champion as much as I can, but ultimately, when there are disagreements with things that I would like to do, ultimately I wasn't at that point where I had the final say, and we ended up with what we had.
Hey, that's what it is. Original Biggie had a question too about the crawling, because he misses the grabbing of the ropes. Even we lost that feature. It was just when we got close to the ropes, rope break, and honestly, we never saw it return.
Yeah, and that was something that was, again, born out of this desire And it was in a good place. Like Corey and everybody at Yuke's, like they meant well. Like because again, they were trying to get rid of warping. They were trying to get rid of phantom actions occurring. Where if we could basically went down to, if we can't implement animations where we actually see the wrestlers grabbing hold of that rope, it was decided that we're better off just not even having that in there. And at the time, it does make sense because you're striving to do something that looks and feels a lot more real. But at the same time, hindsight being what it is, it wasn't a good decision, because I missed that. I missed being able to get close to the ropes and being able to ignore the referee's 5 count to keep it applied.
What's your favorite submission system? Like, out of all the games, which one were you just like, you know what, this works?
In our series, or just wrestling games period?
Wrestling games period. Like, was there something that you just liked?
Honestly, Conrad, I don't have one.
You don't think there's been a good enough one yet?
It's not that there's been a good enough one. I mean, there have been plenty of good enough ones. I mean, button mashing is good enough. It's just that it's been there, done that.
I feel like we haven't had one that really replicates like what the submission wrestling is for like technical wrestlers and stuff. Sometimes, like, there's a struggle, like you said, between the ropes, and what you said sounded really dope. Like, I would have liked to seen that implemented.
Yeah, no, same here. I think submissions are always tricky. Well, you know what? Okay, so there are two. I thought that the submission system that they use in the Impact, the TNA game,
what was theirs? Was that the 3 buttons?
Yeah, it was basically you press it was essentially like one of our mini games that we had in the Royal Rumble match in the corner, where you have to press the correct buttons as they appear on screen to how was it? It was either to get out of the submission or to keep it applied. I forget.
I think it was whoever hit the button first. It was a timing-based game.
Yeah. And I thought that was, a clever way of going about it. It was definitely something that I hadn't seen before in a wrestling game, as it pertains to submission holds. I know that a lot of people don't like the submission system in the more recent 2K games with the little circular thing. I actually enjoyed that system. Not when it was first introduced, but I think that in 2K19, and I'm not saying this just because it was the last game we did, but I think that the tuning that we did in 2K19 kind of had that system where I actually felt that struggle. Because the mini game, I don't know, it was something, it was similar to what we had with the UFC game that we did. It was a similar submission system that Yuke's did for UFC.
Yeah, the cat and mouse, I call it.
The cat and mouse, yeah. And I actually enjoyed that, because I felt that it was a cat and mouse where, and for me, it lasted long enough where if I'm the attacker or the defender, I had enough time to either tap the sumbitch out or, free myself. And again, I think, like I said, the first time we implemented it, I didn't think the tuning was good. But I think by 19, we had it in a place where I actually enjoyed playing that mini game. But it's still not anything that I think is, I don't think is great. But I thought it was good.
Yeah.
But yeah, submissions are always tricky.
Yeah, I was a fan of the Here Comes the Pain, I think it was, to where like the weaker ones had the like the tap that was like ridiculously hard to get to if you really wanted to try and tap someone with like an arm bar or a headlock. But then you had your submission ones where that struggle felt real sometimes, but that was a button mash too, so But
they had two, but you're right though, they had two. Here Comes the Pain, it was submission type A, which was the straight up button mashing, and then submission type B, which is where you had this meter and there was like a ball going back and forth.
Escape in reverse.
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
But that made it dangerous though when you locked on a sleeper. If somebody got the reverse, I've had it happen where it was like, oh damn, I messed up. I'm in the sleeper now. I got to get out. And if you're trash at it, you're gonna lose. So,
I like that one too. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, so there's lots of different ways. Like, I'm with you. I think we just haven't found the right one yet. We found some good things that work, but how can we implement them? And I'm sure that's something that you'll be thinking about with your future title that you're working on.
Oh yeah.
Now, B, comebacks.
Yo.
I love these.
Yeah.
I love these. I think that this added a lot to the game for people like Randy Orton. Look, we all know the BS when it's coming when we're watching wrestling, right, folks? Oh, the shoulder blocks. Even when I see it now, I just go do 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 do. Shoulder tackle 1, do 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 do. Shoulder tackle 2. Stand up, throw the wrist, boop, pick me up, slam down. It's 5 knuckle shuffle time. Boop boop boop. He goes off the ropes. It works. We get it. Yeah. It's just a comeback that's part of wrestling. I loved Randy Orton's with the power slam. Like, that was really dope, and it sets you up for a signature, and it helped the match flow, in my opinion. You hit the comeback, now I'm feeling hyped. I got my signature. Eat this DDT off the ropes, and now it's time for the RKO, and you guys could set up all of that with it. I thought the comebacks were really good, man, and you had one-time use. This is what I liked about this, too. It wasn't spammed. It was just one time you got to pull this off, so you better pull it off at the right moment. I like when games add that strategy to it. I don't want it to be where you could just go in there. I mean, if you want the option to do like infinite finishers or comebacks, give them the option to, but when you're playing your buddy and it's like, okay, let's see who's really better here, that's what I want to feel in the middle of the match. But I thought these were great. Was this your idea, or did someone else come up with this?
Yeah, so the comebacks were something that... So basically... The designers at Yuke's sent us their original design for this feature. They're like, oh, we're going to have this in the game, da-da-da. And again, as someone who was, in charge of gameplay, I read their design, I reviewed it. So they came up with the original idea, and then the feedback that I provided ended up basically being the comebacks that we have in the game to this day. I was the one that, because they like Yuke's, like they knew what they wanted to do, and I saw this and I'm like, okay, I see what you guys are saying. This is that momentum shift that occurs in a match, like a comeback. I get it, but they hadn't factored in when it would be made available, how many times, what it's there for. And so I basically kind of, the feedback that I provided to them was that, look, all these guys, a lot of every babyface had to come back. Like you mentioned, Cena's, Orton's, Daniel Bryan's. And I was one that basically instituted the fact is like, we have to tailor this based off of that wrestler's damage. So the comeback only becomes active if that wrestler is getting beat to shit. They're, losing the match. They don't have a signature. They don't have a finisher. Like, they're at basically the end game for them. That's when the comeback would become active. And that's when they could use it to, if they completed that, that quick time event, get back into the game, get into position at the end of the comeback to have their signature, and then followed by their finisher to, kind of, like I said, have that momentum shift. And I'm like you, like I said, look, this can only happen once per match. The player should not be able to perform a comeback if they are in a signature state or if they have a finisher icon. Like, they need to be in complete, the throes of defeat. That's when the comeback becomes active, and that's when they can use it, and they get one chance to try this to get back into the match. So it was Yuke's that came up with the idea, and then me working with them to finalize, the innards of how the system would work.
Now, Bryan, leading up from that, another sweet thing. So I mentioned Randy Orton. You go through the comeback, boom, boom, boom. You hit everything. DDT. You're about to set up for the RKO. We get introduced to these. I'm gonna call them the wake up taunts. I can't remember if that's what the name were.
That is.
Okay, so you get the wake up taunts, and to me, this was one of the blessings and curses in the game for someone who used to run an eFed. So here, do you know why? The count out's like, all right, bro. So you waited till I got to 8, and then you hit me with a wake up taunt while you were in the ring, and people, we used to just have rules against that. Like, dude, don't do that. Come on.
Oh shit. Okay, yeah.
Yeah. So that little things that sometimes don't get thought about with it, and I was just like, oh, these are horrible. Or when people would do the stall, we would call it the hold the button, and it's like, are you gonna do the move or no, bro? What do you? Nah. I got you. All right, good. You didn't see that coming, did you? So these were great, but I thought, once again, this added another layer to the authenticity of, I felt like I was playing with the Randy Orton model, because This dude could do all of his signature taunts. He had all of his moves. The snap suplex looked like his. John Cena had all the moves that he had that would set up things. He had the wake up taunt when he would sit there and wait for you to get up. And I was just like, dude, this is perfect for what wrestling games need. And I really thought it was dope.
Yeah, I liked it too. This idea came from Yuke's, the designers over there. My boy Yamamori-san. He came up with this idea, and yeah, you're right. I thought it was a game changer in a lot of ways. And I really enjoyed the first implementation of it because you could only do it if you had a finisher in your possession, and even then, if you use it with a finisher, like if you didn't follow it up with that finishing move, your finisher would disappear. You lose it. I liked having that kind of that risk versus reward towards it, and it's cool in the game now. Like we kind of went away from that, where it just became a thing where if you just press the up D-pad, you could do it in any situation. But I don't know. For me, the feature just carried more weight in its original design.
Same. I liked it much better how they originally implemented it. For controls, you guys went back to face buttons. I thought that was a nice change. I think a lot of the fan base was asking for that back then. I just thought it was the right move, man. I think it's just easier to show someone how to play versus the analog stick where you're like, well, you got to turn it just a little bit to the right, but not all the way. What? You're like, yeah, you got to go up and slant it up. I never like trying to show people directions on analog sticks. Like, my brother tries to explain games to me, and it's the worst thing ever. He's like, half rotate your analog stick this way. I'm like, bro, keep it simple, bro. Like, what do you mean?
Yeah.
Like, show me. He's like, I can't.
Yeah. This was a thing that I went to Corey with, just kind of letting them know, it's like, hey man, it's probably time if we just go back to a more traditional control scheme. I think the whole right stick grappling is kind of played out at this point. If the whole thing is to rebrand the game and kind of, maybe kind of take things back to the essence and just going back to the buttons. And he agreed. We all kind of felt that, yeah, the analog stuff is, we've been there, done that. Let's go back to basics, So I was put in charge of, like I did with SBR'07 when we made the change to the analog controls. I was put in charge of remapping the controls for this year's for WWE'12, and I thought it came out great actually. It was just nice to return to that classic style of wrestling video games, using the buttons.
Yeah, I kind of wish someone didn't touch it in this year's title because that just looks like you just touch it just to do it.
Now look, I don't want to throw shade at 2K. I don't.
You can say I will then. That's fine.
I haven't played 2K20, but that has more to do with just the reaction that I've read and seen. And I guess there is a little bit of ego too, because it's like, fuck, I've been working on this for so long and it seems like it's just not good. But when I found out they changed the controls, I was very intrigued when I first found that out, and I watched. I think it was Tony Pizza Guy, or maybe it was Dink Ops, and one of those guys did a video on it, and I think it was Chris Dinker, and I'm watching this video and he's saying like how he was at that event, and it's like, oh, they wanted to change controls to get to make things more simplified, and I'm like, okay, because that was the whole thing we did for 12 was to try to go back to basics. And as he's explaining the control change to me, I'm sitting there and I'm just like, this doesn't sound simple to me.
No, dude, listen, they just moved buttons and made it worse.
Yeah, I couldn't understand that change. I mean, and it's not just because I'm the one that kind of, was in charge of the controls, but if you're saying that things are going to be simplified, for me, it was just a strange thing to try to do, where it was, I don't know, it felt unnecessary. Especially in the sense that I'm sure that everybody who was working on that game knew that things weren't, they were having difficulties. And I think they made it more hard on themselves, making a change that ultimately I don't think was something that, again, fans were, really clamoring for. And I'm not even saying that the original controls were great or anything. But if you're not going to make them better than what came before, for me, that was just one of those decisions where I was so perplexed by that.
I felt like honestly they needed to just have something to say that they did. Not trying to be funny. It was just like you would have just said, "Well, there's not enough features in this. Like, what have you guys been working on?" Like at first, I believed the hype a little bit into it. I was like, "Oh, okay, this looks like it might be good. Cool." And then all of a sudden, once I started hearing about the features, I was like, "Where are the features? Like, what's new?" And then new control scheme, simplified controls, and I'm like, "Okay." I was just like you. I was with it. Then all of a sudden, once Dank Ops and them like told the stories, they basically confirmed like, "Yeah, don't buy this." Like I was like, "Yeah," I had my guard was up already. And I'm like, "I'm gonna trust these guys and their opinion," and they just ruined it for me for that.
Yeah, I mean, I can't even front. I mean, one of the things on the back of this box was, we touted the, smoother, simpler controls and gameplay. So we did the same thing. The thing for me is that, and we'll get into this when we start talking about like Attitude Era and like, stuff like that. There are certain things that as a gamer and as a designer, I can kind of tell that, okay, whoever was in charge of this, they were making these decisions, but they weren't playing the changes. They weren't like they might have thought about in their head how these things would play out. But as someone who designed control changes, like I was constantly playing the game and testing out the button mappings and all that. And as someone who plays games, I mean, it's easy to figure out, okay, well, doing this is not easy and doing this doesn't feel right or natural. And you change and you pivot. And it's one of those things where I'm like, I don't know if anybody, maybe they were so under the gun where they made these changes and they just didn't have time to really spot check it. But that would have instantly been a red flag. Because like anytime when we work with you with the control changes, like we do a thing, they send us a build, we spend time playing it, we get people's feedback, how's it feel? Like are there any issues, feedback on how things are mapped? And you kind of go from there, because I mean, how many times have anybody played a game where you're just like, why is the controls like this? Like this is so unintuitive.
Like, listen, I just read Biggie's comment and it made me sad. He said it's bad. What is more upsetting is they didn't have an option to return back except for on the PC. Like you couldn't revert the controls back. Like it hurt the dude's soul, to even play that game. So let's stick on this though. Let's get back to 12. Moves. Last thing I have written down here for gameplay, this is a small thing. Moves happen where they happen. So there's no more people's elbow where you get put in the middle of the ring, because that used to hurt my soul when someone would hit the rock bottom by the ropes. I'm like, pet me, bro. They're like, oh, no, not yet.
Yeah.
And then they put me in the middle, and I'm like, oh, dirty. Like, they got me, man. And then there was no hope for me but to eat the pinfall. But I thought that was a nice minor improvement that you guys added that in.
Yeah, and this goes back to what I mentioned earlier about, Corey's edict about eliminating warping. Because that's a good example. Like, previous to this game, like if you did the people's elbow or any move that resulted in, in the wrestler running the ropes or anything like that, it would warp you into position so the move could trigger, successfully. And this was a year where we're like, okay, no more warping. Like if you do a move, we just have to account for where the defender and the attacker are when the move is triggered. And if that means that the Rock can only bounce off of one side of the ropes, and so be it, he'll do that instead of trying to bounce off of two to do the whole thing. So yeah, that was something that was a big change that we made in this game versus gameplay wise versus all the other years iterations. And funny enough, this is just a little like internally, moves like the rock bottom or any move in the game where you trigger a move or a strong strike and the wrestler hits the ropes, comes back. Like internally, we refer to those as people's moves in reference to the people's elbow.
That's a nice little tidbit to know.
So you have to account for all that. Like, it's like, okay, well, if a people's move is triggered, and it's interrupted, how do we account for that? So yeah, people's moves is just a thing that we still use it now when we talk about stuff internally. People's moves.
Now, Bryan, this roster had a lot of firsts with people coming up and everything else with this.
Daniel Bryan!
Well, I want to play a game with you. I'm going to mention somebody's name, and I kind of just want you to give me your thoughts on the person when I just mention the name. We'll just go through a few people on the roster.
All right.
Some will be DLC, some will not. Daniel Bryan, first and foremost.
I'm sorry. What am I supposed to say? Just a one-word response, or
You can give a quick little blurb or a one-word response about the person.
my all-time favorite wrestler, and finally we were able to get him into the game. I was a very happy man.
The American Dragon was badass. Alex Riley.
Yeah, he's in the game.
that was horrible.
Well, no,
just the way you said it was like, yeah, he's in.
But when I booted the game up, I had forgotten that he was in. I'm like, oh shit, yeah, Alex Riley.
The most overused Caw theme probably for this year's game. That theme was sweet that he had, though. I'm not gonna lie. The same to my face.
Was this? I think this was the first. Was this the first and only game he was in?
I don't remember if he was in next year's.
Yeah, I didn't see him in 13, but I didn't unlock everybody. But yeah, it was good to have. It's always good to have, a new face.
Yeah,
and I thought he had a lot of potential.
Sin Cara.
Another guy that another new face. I was a fan of Sin Cara, the original guy. Just having seen his work, in Mexico, it was fun mocapping his entrance. Thank you, Sanjay Dutt.
Yeah, no thank you for those doo-doo ass light entrances too. Whoever put those in, bad. Stop giving people entrances and make them wrestle matches under certain lighting. I hate that so much.
Oh, that's right. He had the blue light.
Yes, I was gonna say something when you were talking about like changing the lighting. I'm like, oh, so it's Sin Cara's fault. Why the physics system wasn't in? Yeah, Husky Harris.
Yeah, the Bray Wyatt made it. Well, not Bray Wyatt, but Husky. Yeah, it was again good to have him in the game. I liked Husky.
I hated that name for him.
I didn't like it either. But his talent was evident the moment that I saw him on NXT. So it's always good to have any year you can make a game and have a roster of new faces is a good year.
Yeah, thank goodness he took on that Red State persona with the Bray Wyatt. Like, way better.
Yeah.
Heath Slater.
My man, Handsome Heath.
Is that a nickname?
That was his name in FCW when I first met him. Because he did mocap for us, and Heath's a friend. He's a friend. He's a good dude. I saw him last year at my Gold's Gym. Funny enough, it was the WWE was in town for. I'm not sure if it was a pay-per-view, but they were in town for some show at Staples Center. And him and Rhino and Jinder and Drew McIntyre, all these, the wrestlers were at the gym. Chris Masters, like I said, who goes there, they were all there working out. And it had been years since I had seen Heath. And I wasn't I recognized all these guys. I don't think everybody else in the gym knew who these guys were. And I'm going to the treadmill, and I'm on the treadmill actually, and we happened to, to lock eyes. And I did the head nod, and he was like, oh, what's up? So I got off, and I said what's up to him and everything. No, Heath is a great guy, and it was really cool to have him in the game.
Make sure you support Heath Slater with that I Got Fired shirt. That's probably my favorite one out of everybody who's been gone. Instead of the I Got Kids, I Got Fired. So he's gonna make his money. I'm actually interested to see what he does if he goes anywhere else. I just want to see what he can really do, man. I feel like he never got the opportunity to really shine.
No, he didn't, and a lot of people in WWE don't get that opportunity. But he's a hell of a fucking wrestler, man. Mm-hmm. He's a great promo. He can work. I'm excited to see what he does too.
Yeah, I've heard that offline from a lot of people actually.
Yeah.
Jim Ross. How did JR get into this game? Like, what made somebody say, let's put Jim Ross in? I felt like you guys were like vibing off No Mercy a little bit here with like, let's put some announcers in. Who cares? Screw it.
Wait, he's playable, right?
Mm-hmm. He was DLC.
Yeah. DLC. Okay, so this was. Damn, okay. In 12 or 13?
12.
In 12, oh.
Yeah, you guys had some weird DLC packs for this.
Yeah,
so your first pack was the WrestleMania pack. You had Shawn Michaels, Jerry Lawler, Jim Ross, Michael Cole, LOD in their alternate attires, Edge and Christian in their alternate attires.
Michael Cole. This was the year that he wrestled Lawler at that WrestleMania, right?
Yes.
Or it was after that. Yeah. Okay, that's why he's in there. Okay, okay. It was if JR was playable, that was probably just something that the WWE wanted to give him a payday. Because unless you're, so I mean, it's no secret that if you're in the roster of any one of these games, like the wrestlers get a pretty nice paycheck for being in the game, or at least they used to. I've heard conflicting reports about how things are now, but it was always a political thing for the WWE sometimes, where they would kind of push certain talents to be playable, so they can get that that bonus check or whatever. So maybe JR being in was to give him that check because we had Michael Cole and the King in there.
You guys have
other than
Guerrero. Yeah, it was weird.
Yeah, other than that, that's like the only thing. Well, she wrestled also in that same WrestleMania.
Yeah,
so I get that, but
maybe,
yeah,
maybe that was it, to have the roster just feel flushed out compared to Mania, what it was.
Yeah, because I know that if you're an NPC, a non-playable character in the game, like you don't get any royalty check.
Got to mark that down for future things I need to know. Let's see here. I'm going to skip some of these other names that we had mentioned already. Karma.
Yeah. So
Karma lasted longer in my game than in WWE. Like, I was sad. I really wanted to see what she could do.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, because I think when I was doing my research for DLC for SVR 11, wasn't she first made available in that game as DLC?
No, this one. Because I think she debuted in this Rumble, wasn't it? Where she beat up Dolph Ziggler?
I don't know, man. I think
this
you might
was
be
the
wrong.
Weird Rumble, because remember they had 40,
you might be wrong, homie.
They have 40 people. I'm calling it. I'm calling it right now. I think I'm right on this one. Because Alberto Del Rio won that Rumble.
I'm going to the homie SmackDown Hotel.
Okay, go ahead. I'm on it too. That's where I'm looking.
Oh, for real?
Yeah. That's all right. I'm gonna let him say what he wants here for this one. Live chat. You remember to give him hell for this.
Well, if you're on it, then I guess I'll trust you. But I could have swore that she was DLC in 11.
No, she was DLC here too. They had like a Divas pack with Trish, Karma, the Bellas, Vicky, and Alicia Fox, which was free DLC.
Oh, all right. Well,
you guys were experimenting with this one because Karma really didn't get any shine at any points though. Like, she came in, she did some stuff in the Rumbles, then she did the angle where she cried and left, and it was just like, what is going on with her? And then she was gone.
Yeah, no.
She was some thought to never be seen again. Check out Glow though. Love that show with her on it.
Oh yeah, she's really good in Glow.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I'm still checking this.
All right. I'm gonna let him check.
Yeah. Go ahead. You can.
No, I'm on my last one. It's Macho Man Randy Savage, bro. How did you guys pull this off?
We finally, just whittled down WWE, and as much as they didn't want him in the game for so many years, I think at the end of the day, and this points to the strength of our marketing at the time and the people that were in place, and they're still there. Most of them are still there at 2K, but they're very convincing, and if you can persuade them, them being WWE, that hey, this is what fans want, and we can make money off of this. If you can kind of make that case to them, they will be more apt to allow some of these guys that they ordinarily or previously wouldn't want in the game. Money talks. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think it was just us, just talking them down.
I think also when it comes to that, I think him being an All-Stars really helped a lot too.
Right. Okay. Well, there you go. That's it.
That's where he started. I remember Tank did an interview with him. So when you guys used to do these videos back in the day, I guess I could transition into this part too. You guys used to do like the developer videos, I think it was called, something like that, with Tank and Marcus. And they'd sit down with. I don't know if you were in any of them. I was really digging through some old school people's files to find these, and I think
I did one with Tank and with Aubrey. Hold on one second. I'm gonna turn my light on real quick. Give me 1 sec.
Nope, that's fine. While he turns the light on, but they had like a developer series where the community manager would sit down with someone like Corey Ledesma and go through parts of the game. And I used to like look forward to that every week when the game was getting closer to coming out. So I thought that was a really nice touch for the developers to add that in. as far as to just show themselves and like what's their thought process on features. I don't know. I just like the inside look at what they were doing with that. I saw one with Tank and Corey, and I ended up watching. I know one of my questions was featured on it too, way back in the day. Like they would let you ask questions and everything else. So it was.
Those were fun.
It was good stuff, man.
Yeah, I did one with Tank and with Aubrey. I did one with Aubrey for 13, and 14. We did the roster reveal. I remember that.
Oh yeah,
but yeah. Those are always fun. I love answering.
I got thoughts on that too when we get to it.
Yeah,
that was some good stuff though. But I love those videos, by the way. So if you ever like need content, they're like, well, what could we do if you ever get asked by marketing? Those types of videos go a long way with me.
Yeah, and it looks like you're right about karma. So
live chat, you know what to do. So
yeah, looks like you're right.
Arena. I think some people were already agreeing with me a little bit too. MTO just asked about Brock Lesnar. MTO, if you rewind it back, we did answer that earlier on in the video. So make sure you just go back and check it out. It's one of the first things I think we talk about in this video with Brock Lesnar. Arena sound and music. You guys went to like this arena sound for the music. What did you think of that? Did you like that, Brian, or did you think it was kind of It's like a 50-50 like mixed response. You know what I mean? Do you want it to sound like the arena when the guy's coming out, or do you want like the clear music so you could like feel it?
Well, the whole thing was just trying to make the game, feel as authentic to programming as possible. So I mean, I guess.
Do you have a preference, or it doesn't matter?
Nah, I really don't. Like when it comes to music and all that kind of stuff, like I'm more concerned about sound effects and commentary than anything else.
Don't say that.
No, man, I've never been happy with our sound effects or our commentary. Those are always the things that I kind of focus on more than the music of the interest themes and all that kind of stuff. But
I thought the sound effects were on some years and off some years. Like I thought it could be better, but I never had an issue with how the sounds always sounded. But the commentary, bro, that's a whole. We could make a video about that. I don't know what would happen with that. I think that comes down to not enough time, though.
No.
Is it?
No. It's not about time.
Is it effort?
Not about time. I'm gonna say this, but I have to.
You don't have to say who,
yes.
but is it like an effort issue for?
Yes, it's effort. The guys when I was, at THQ, starting with, because we got new sound guys, starting with I want to say it was like WWE'13 or 14. My homeboy Bryan, another Bryan, spelled the right way with a Y. So I love Bryan. He's dope. And,
shout out to Zeke.
Yeah, and. Sean, like we had really good people working on audio. So I'm not going to say that their effort wasn't there. The effort was there, and I'm not just talking about those two. I'm talking about anybody who's worked on audio, specifically commentary, in the years that I spent working on this franchise. The reason that the commentary, and again, in my opinion, which I think is probably fucking accurate, is it's hard to design commentary for something that you do not watch. And that has always been the big sticking point with me. Anytime that we've had any kind of audio designers, and we've had some good ones, you can have great designs, great ideas for how you want things to trigger and implement. But you first and foremost, you need to watch the product. You need to just consume as much of the product as you can.
Can I jump in, Brian, real quick?
Please.
Is that not a question? Because Marcus said like he had questions about WWE in his interview for the community manager interview. Like, what's the one wrestling moment that changed your life? They asked him. He said, I think he brought up something about Macho Man and Ricky Steamboat. I can't remember his exact answer, but he said he had something where, or maybe it was the retirement match with Warrior and Macho Man and how it like changed his life. He was like, that was just a question they asked. He was like, I thought that was so cool. They don't ask that to everybody.
Apparently not. I mean,
damn.
And again, like I'm not trying to, I'm not shitting on the people that worked on it because they're my friends. some of them are at least, who were on audio. And to their credit, a lot of the shit they did was great. Like as long as you were able to, because I worked with the audio team a lot towards the, I guess, really beginning with 14. I got really involved with audio because we started doing the whole, the superstar voiceovers with the taunts and the entrances and all that kind of stuff. And I was helping out with sound effects because, like I said, I wasn't really happy with sound effects. I'm a big super kick fucking mark, and it would always pain me when we throw a super kick in the game and it did not sound like a super kick on programming. I needed that crack. I need that sound of somebody slapping the thigh. So I pushed to get that in there, but it was like I had to kind of insert myself into so much of it because I was such a fan and am such a fan where it's like, okay, so this has to sound like this, these, commentary arguments need to trigger at this time. And I was more than happy to help, because like I said, that was important to me. But at the same time, like, this isn't my main focus. My main focus is over here, like, gameplay, create modes, and all this other stuff that I'm doing. So it's like, when I have time, you have questions, of course, I'm going to give you my time. But at the end of the day, I mean, you have to know the product that you're designing for, And I know that, my guys who were working on it, like, they didn't hate wrestling, but they also, I mean, they weren't fans. They weren't watching, Raw and SmackDown weekly. They would watch whatever I put in front of them as like reference. But it's the same thing where it's like, how you could be the best audio designer in the world, but if you get hired to do an NBA game or an MLB game, the commentary, and you don't watch it, I mean, you're basically designing blind. Like, how are you going? Yeah. So that honestly is the biggest reason that the commentary has been the mess that it's kind of been. It's just, unless you just have to know the product. And it's always been my thing where it's like, there's so much of it where it's like, we're not at a loss for WWE product, back then and right now. And especially once the network became active. I remember giving my account information because I signed up for the network the day that it launched. And I gave all the guys on the audio team access to my account so they could go on, just check out whatever the hell that they needed to for reference. But that's really it. I mean, it's not the fact that it was a year's time. It's just, they did the best that they could do, not being fans. But for me, I look at how talented they are. And it's like, had they spent more time just really kind of engorging the product and really kind of getting a sense of how matches are called, whether based on their spot on the card, their hierarchy within, any, like the men's, the women's division, tag team division, where, you could have, I just think it would have been a better overall, implementation of the system. But
Brian, I think you woke up a couple people in the live chat. They're kind of ranting about it too now, saying the same thing, like that's terrible. But it's what it was. We can't go back and change it now. But that's something that I think.
Yeah, sorry for that rant.
No, dude. That's good, man. Yeah, this game we had backstage brawls. Meh. So I'm just gonna. Can we just leave it at that? Meh.
Yeah. No.
Yeah, it could have been better for what we wanted. Okay, my story for you that I told you I was gonna tell you guys from last week. Community creations, bro. I like this community creations for the feature page. I don't know if you remember that. That was probably bad news too, though. I know that might have been a Marcus idea. I think. I can't remember, to where remember the top download would be featured at the bottom, like it'd be the top 3, and I'll never forget we would always see stuff like AJ Styles, and I'm like, bro, this is not good. This is not good for the game. Abyss number 2 this week, and then it'd be like whoever wasn't in the game from WWE. I just remember seeing those, and I was like, man, that's probably not wise, and it was instantly removed next year. But with the downloads, do you remember that this game in the beginning you could not download people because of how like overactive the servers were in the beginning? Live chat,
for real?
Live chat, yeah, someone help me out. We couldn't download people because the servers were overactive. Like, so it would fill up and then the bar would stop right at the end and then it would just like crash. You were like, oh, come on.
Oh, damn.
So at this time, I had a job. I was working early as F in the morning. Like, roosters aren't even up yet, bro. And I'm sitting there, and I would wake up, and I remember my wife at the time was my girlfriend, and she would, like, see me sometimes. She's like, aren't you going to work? And then I'm like, yeah, I'm going to work. And then all of a sudden, it would be like, dude, are you downloading stuff right now? I'm like, yeah, I got to download these 6 wrestlers. I would write them down in a pad, and then I would download them as I left for work. That was the only time it would work, is like different server times. So the little community base that knew that, we would just get on early, and we're like, everyone would be like, how are you downloading people? We're like, oh, you got to do it at like 2 a.m., bro. You got to wake up super early and then download them. Hurt my
damn,
soul.
no, I mean, I was not aware of that.
The struggle was real, man. So don't say I never grinded for WWE'12. I remember seeing Randy Orton and hearing that. Remember the background music, the doon 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 at the menu screen, bro. I know that shit. Yeah. So I know I'm not wrong about that. Big facts.
Oh, the struggle was real. I'm sorry, brother.
No, that used to hurt my soul, man. But I had to have my TNA guys for the creative story.
Man, I can't tell you how many times I've downloaded AJ Styles in one of these games, man.
Dude, I was just happy we finally get him later on. Like, to finally have him in the games. Create an arena, bro. I love this. I just have one question. The arenas, it was a nice platform to start off. We'll get more into it in 13. How come we never got, like, the Japanese style or boxing turnbuckle pads? I always requested that, like, every year. They were like, what request do you want? And I'm like, bro, can we just put those in? You can act like it's boxing. Like, I know, but I want to make New Japan rings. Like, that's all I want to do.
I asked for that. I was in charge of this. And I asked for that. I mean, I'm as someone who was, big into New Japan, it was on my list of parts that I wanted to have included. But the cost for it was too high, because basically the whole system of Custom Arena is that it's built off of pre-existing structures that we have in the game, right? Mm-hmm. Where the only real difference is, the size. Like, we had, kind of regular size arenas and then kind of more cavernous ones. But as far as the ring and the pieces and parts themselves, it's not that we couldn't have added those things, as it was explained to me. It just would have cost a lot more time and just time to get those things implemented versus what we would lose out by adding those parts to it.
I'm not mad at it, brother. I always wanted to know. Like, I used to just request it every year.
Oh, come on, man. That was because I'm the one that came up all the areas that you could customize, and it's just I got to like the turnbuckle. What's up?
No, you were just skipping a little.
What's that?
I said you were just skipping a little bit.
You went out a little bit.
Yeah, it was breaking up a little bit. Are we still having technical difficulties?
Yeah.
Okay, I think we're back. It said we had poor connection for a second.
Yeah, the internet. Okay, yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, my Wi-Fi is not the greatest.
But that was a good explanation for the turnbuckle pads. I'm not mad at it. I just always thought it would be a cool feature to have in when you were making those boxing arenas, maybe to recreate Piper versus Mr. T WrestleMania. Yeah. I used to try to come up with any excuse to get them in. I'm like, oh, you could recreate this if you wanted to. Let's see here. What else do I have written down for this game?
But one more thing though. Like here's I guess just some insight into what it is to actually the things you have to account for as you're designing. So the New Japan style buckles, right? The ones that just cover up, the top, middle, and bottom buckle. There's a cost attached to just getting that functionality implemented to where you can cover all that space up. But then at the same time, you have to account for situations where what if someone is groggy in that corner, you trigger a corner grapple move where that person is then thrust. Like you have the move where they get shot into the in between the top and middle rope where they get posted with the shoulder.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? You have to account for that. Like if there's that full pad there, you then have to say, oh, well, what happens then? Because you don't want to have the character clipping through the pad to hit the post. And it's like, okay, well, if that move triggers, then we have to programmatically have another move that triggers instead that doesn't, break the game or cause that clipping issue. So it's just one of those things that as you want things in the game, sometimes you just have to account for everything. And sometimes it's worth the cost. And a lot of times, not a lot of times, but then other times it just isn't, where it's like, oh, I really want that. But if it's going to take time away from this, that, and the other thing, then we'll try again next year. So just wanted to throw that out there.
No, that's completely reasonable when it comes to expectation. I didn't even think about that. Just getting the clipping issues in there. Road to WrestleMania, real quick, Brian. We had the 3 wrestlers. They were all connected. The Sheamus, Triple H, and then we all know Jacob Cass was AKA Austin Aries.
Austin.
Shout out to A-Double, one of my favorites to watch from Ring of Honor days. I don't know how I felt about this. Like, you could really tell Justin was not working on this anymore.
I do. You really can.
Yeah, like
I noticed it instantly.
I don't know. I don't even know what to say to this. Like, there's a reason why this was probably the last one. I did like the WCW storyline a little bit into it, though. It had its moments too. Like, I like that they tried to put War Games in, but then it hurts my soul that they really didn't do it right either. I was like, come on, Nash, what are you doing to me, bro?
Yeah, I hadn't played this Road to WrestleMania in a long time, and so after having played through 9, 10, and 11. Yeah, like you, that was my first thought too. It was like I instantly kind of felt the absence of Justin when it came to the script more than anything, and also some of the game mechanics, like during the match. I spent about 3 hours into it. I don't think it's terrible by any stretch of the imagination, like not at all. But for me, it was just missing and lacking a certain bit of charm that I felt was in a lot of Justin's scripts and everything.
And it felt lackluster because you only got 3 instead of like the 6 we were getting, 5 or 6 before. It was just like, 3 now? Okay. And some of them were like storylines you felt like that Justin wrote before and you just tried to kind of rehash it your own special kind of way.
Yeah, it was definitely a step down, unfortunately. But like I said, I didn't think it was anywhere near as horrific as 24/7 mode in SBR 08.
No,
it just wasn't as good as the Road to WrestleMania that came before it.
It's like when you bring home B's all the time, then you get like a C+, and you just show your parents are just kind of like, nah, come on, kid.
It's one of those things. Okay, like a C+, all right, not terrible, but we know you can do better type of situation.
Exactly. And that would be I think that's the last we see of Road to WrestleMania as an official mode after this, unfortunately.
Yeah, this was the swan song for Road to WrestleMania. Like I said, not bad, but just kind of a come down from what we had before. And I don't say that just because Justin's a friend of mine. I mean,
no, dude, it's just a fact. I think honestly, for people who are longtime like players of the series, like it was a letdown a little bit. Not gonna lie.
But there were things in it. Like I liked how it opened. I thought that some of the production that they had in it were in the mode was pretty good.
Yeah, it was the cinematic things, right? Like it would come across like Sheamus, boom, like a movie kind of. Yeah, that was good.
Yeah. So I mean, it definitely had some nice flourish of the presentation. But just kind of missing that spark,
Yeah.
And speaking of, like just going since we're we bringing up Justin. So this was the first. So Justin was gone by this point. And I think one of the reasons why like my memories of this game aren't as vivid as the ones that came before it is that I was kind of in mourning a little bit. Because to go from 3 years of being able to work side by side with 2 of my best friends, and Justin and Dan Ryan, to then beginning production on 12, where both of them were gone, and it just hurt, man. Like a lot of the joy that I had working on the franchise, like this was a year that I was just missing my friends, missing having my coworkers, my family around, to help, work on these games. So yeah, man, I was sad working on this.
Yeah, Original Biggie just dropped his channel in the chat, so if you guys do want to check out Justin, his channel is in there on the YouTube live chat. And real quick, I'm just going to bring up these things in universe mode, but I think we're going to get into it when we talk 13. You guys did it as a separate mode this year.
Yeah.
Brought back show intros, which was nice. Nice little cherry. This game had a lot of, like, I call them the little cherries on top, like the sprinkles. You just, yeah, here you go. How's that ice cream look now? A little bit better? All right, good.
It's all about trying to improve the presentation, you know?
Mm-hmm. Cutscenes. You guys added some more of those. Injuries were finally added into universe mode. Sad to see your United States champion Kofi Kingston out for six months after he's been in a match every week on Monday Night Raw because you did him dirty. You could finally defend titles in universe mode, and they finally resized the damn belts. And I know me and Marcus had this conversation a lot. I was like, bro, if you don't fix the size of them damn toy belts y'all been using for production for this, I don't know how it looks like this, but it looks bad. And they finally got them right, I felt, here with this.
Yeah, you know, I got a question about that from my homeboy Roman Blair. He wanted the same thing. He was like, what happened, like, with SBR 11? Like, why are the belts so tiny? And when he asked me that, I honestly that wasn't something that I remember from that game. But I definitely noticed it when I was spending time with it, you know, over the past couple of weeks playing it. And the only thing that I can think of is that they did that as a way to minimize the clipping between the belt and the wrestler. And I think they programmatically, they might have done something where they would tailor the size of the championship based off of who was wearing it to eliminate any sort of unsightly clipping. Because that's like the only thing I can think of, because they are ridiculously small. And I had forgotten. I was like, holy shit, they look like Mattel toy belts, you know?
Yeah, I don't know if that's what they used or whatnot, but I'm just glad it got fixed.
Yeah, me too.
Prince Rockstar said that, I think this is more towards me, he said, y'all tripping, that CAW Road to WrestleMania was fire. It had its moments. But like I said, Kevin Nash, it's going to be what it's going to be with that.
Hey, I'm glad you enjoyed it, brother. I mean, you're honestly, like, when it comes to these games, you know, the consumer's opinions as far as like what they enjoyed and didn't carries much more weight than anything I can fucking say.
And shout out to Rob. He said, don't let Vince know that you're account sharing. He's going to send the corporate goons after you. Well, if he does that to Bryan, I'm going to call up my man Nails, and he'll have some words to say with Vince about that. Real quick, though, speaking of account sharing and Vince trying to make things hard, let's talk about some Manscaped real quick, people. This Manscaped Lawnmower 3.0, this is where it's at. If you're thinking about spending time with your significant other, you're going to want to get this Manscaped, where you can manscape all of the grooming parts that you may need to. You want to be smooth for the ladies at all times. The Lawnmower 3.0 can help you out with that. Also, I don't ever show these enough. You guys have the Crop Preserver. Crop, you know where that is, guys. Come on. You guys throw a little bit of that on. You'll be smelling good, feeling right. It's called anti-chafing ball deodorant. So you guys will make sure that you want to get that. And we also have the Reviver ball toner. Give a little spritz of that on the old boys. Action coming quicker than you guys can expect from the ladies. Ladies, it works the same for you. If you want the guys coming over to hound you, you're going to want to make sure that you guys get this exact same set for your bits. So, do me a favor, go to manscaped.com and put in the code EPW show for 20% off. That easy. It's in the description box down below. Make sure you guys check it out.
Are you looking for the newest and hottest in the world of pro wrestling? Then check out the amazing action on Powerslam.tv, the biggest indie pro wrestling channel in the world. Get over 6,000 hours of the best events from over 150 of your favorite promotions from 20 different countries around the globe. Brands like Progress Wrestling, Evolve Wrestling, Combat Zone, Defy, PCW Ultra, PWX, Over the Top, Shine, and hundreds of others with fresh content added every day for only $5.99 per month. Get your free trial today at powerslam.tv.
Everything Pro Wrestling, it's your boys from the Everything College Basketball Podcast and Facebook group. I'm Josh Burton, letting you all know that if you like the college game, that there's only one spot to come find all you need to know.
Yep, Josh, Peyton, and myself, Tyler. We are the three voices of ECB podcast and Facebook group. Peyton, tell them where they can find us and listen to us at.
Well, Tyler, you can find us on Anchor, Spotify, iTunes, Google Podcasts, and all other podcast hosting sites. Also, go join our Facebook group, facebook.com/groups like Everything College Basketball.
So if you want everything you need to know about the collegiate game or have a passion for it, there's only one spot that you need to check out on a weekly basis or a daily basis with the Facebook group. That's Everything College Basketball. Now let's get back to Conrad informing you on everything pro wrestling and the workings around it.
Brother.
Brian.
Yo.
It's time. It's time to talk about WWE'13, man. This game. I've got it right here. CM Punk is one of, oh, you got the Stone Cold edition.
I didn't even realize I had this, yeah. And I got an autographed Austin thing there, yeah.
Damn, Brian, way to make me feel poor. Hold on, let me see what's in mine. Sadness, a manual. And I'm such a bum. I always keep the GameStop receipts in here. These bad boys are faded now. But they used to have the codes and everything on them. But look at the pre-order bonus. Iron Mike Tyson, bro. That was a great pre-order bonus. When you think of what defines the Attitude Era and the Monday Night Wars and everything else, getting Mike Tyson was a huge deal for you guys. Mike Tyson wouldn't appear in boxing video games. Like, I don't think people understand this, like how big of a deal this was. And sorry, I was putting the game back in its proper place. Mike Tyson would not appear in like fight night games for years because he was like the Michael Jordan. Remember when Michael Jordan was just player in the basketball video game? You just knew that ball-headed green outline was Michael Jordan, player 23. They couldn't get him in. Same with him. It's the same thing with Mayweather today when you want him in boxing games. Just wild, man. But THQ pulled it off. They got him for the Attitude Era mode. And I just remember being a kid, man. The Attitude Era was the shit, bro. Like, anytime, I swear to you, people in my age range have to be like the strangest wrestling fans. 80s. I grew up with it as a kid. Then I go into that new generation with Brett and Shawn. I'm still into it a little bit. And then right when you think I would fall out, it goes to the Attitude Era. And I'm like, yo, they're showing Sable get butt naked on TV. This is dope. My boy's dad got the Playboy with her in Catholic school. Like, let me see that in your backpack, dog. Hold up. Turn the page. What's going on with Sable here? Damn. Mark Merrill don't know. He don't know, but it was just weird, man. Just a strange time, but a fun time, I think, in pro wrestling too. I know it's not all glitz and glamour when it comes to the Attitude Era, but what were your thoughts on Mike Tyson being playable in this, man?
Oh, I thought it was dope, man. I mean, I think, like you said, I mean, I think honestly it was an easy sell. I mean, because there's no secret that Mike, Tyson's a huge fan of WWE, and I can only imagine that when our legal team, the legal team at THQ reached out to him to see if he had if he would be willing to participate, as being in the game. I can't imagine that he even hesitated or gave that any sense of thought. He was like, me being in a wrestling game, I'm sure he was like gung ho about it. So it was cool, man. Yeah. It was really cool to have Iron Mike in the game. I felt it was like a feather in our cap for this year.
Yeah, man. I love. I know I'm sidetracking with this with Mike Tyson, man. But one of my favorite. Have you ever seen his stand up where he did like the telling like his life story kind of? But it's weird. It's like a tragedy and a comedy at the same time.
Yeah, his one-man show.
Yes.
I have not seen it.
Yeah. Oh my god, dude, you'll laugh at so many parts. Like one of the funniest parts is like when he first started learning how to box and what they said to him that he was like, "Yeah, you got that crazy strength, Mike." And he was like, you need to get in the boxing ring and use that. One of my favorite stories was the Vince McMahon story, though. I remember watching it with my wife's family at the time. It was all the guys just chilling in the living room. And this is just playing while we're sitting there watching. We're talking about other stuff. And all of a sudden he's like, yeah. And then right before the Royal Rumble, I met Vince McMahon. I went to his office, and he was just sitting in this big old chair like you would expect him to. And he was like, Mike, the wrestling's fake, but the fucking money's real. And Mike Tyson's like, oh, okay, I like this guy. It's not like Bruno Sammartino days and stuff, you know? And he knew instantly he wanted to work with Vince. Vince is one of the best promoters of anything. UFC has copied him and everything else. I just thought he added so much to it. Like him with that, he was biting ears off at the time. It just fit, man.
Yeah.
Just fit with the Attitude Era.
He definitely did. He fit. Like that was like the perfect time to get him. You know what I mean? Because they were trying to be counterculture and trying to be, edgy and like the rebels of wrestling. And like, I mean, it doesn't get more rebellious than a recently freed Iron Mike Tyson. You know what I mean?
Yeah, dude, giving out the crotch chops to people when he joined DX.
His crotch chops are hilarious too, man.
So bad they're good, right?
Yeah.
That's just Mike Tyson, man. And one of my favorite videos too is with him and Wayne Brady, and I think they like redo Every Little Step I Take with Mike Tyson dancing in the background. Don't watch Wayne Brady because he's like the main focus of the video. Just watch Mike Tyson in the background dancing. Freaking hilarious. I don't know who edited this on Funny or Die, but it was freaking hilarious. So I want to make sure that they get their just due and credit when it comes to that. Brian, this game, this roster, bro. You guys went all out, I felt like, for this. I don't know what it was. I don't know if you were directed to. Over 100 superstars with the DLC and everything else all figured in, bro. Like, that was crazy. And I'm pulling it up right now on SmackDown Hotel. Let me give my man Andy Badwell his credit. Shout out to Andy.
Sir.
He's actually been watching the videos, too. He's leaving me comments after the fact. So
what up, man?
Make sure I show him some love.
I'm gonna go to the site, too.
Let's see here. So, you guys started off with the Attitude Era Superstar Pack. You guys had Rikishi, Scotty 2 Hotty, Grandmaster Sexay. He used to always crack me up. Gangrel. Needed that Brood music, bro. One of the best.
Dude, the best music, best entrance music, maybe ever.
Dude, I can still see my buddy Aaron like going to his house as kids, man, just playing it with like a glass of water in his hand, just doing the Gangrel bop. Like, dude, stop. Freaking great, man. And Val Venus, he was another one of my favorite like wrestlers during that time. I know Bruce Pritchard and them just did a podcast about him, and he's catching a lot of heat for stuff he's been saying recently. But the Val Venus character, I knew that dude could wrestle, bro, and I just felt like he got saddled with that gimmick, and I'm like, I don't know if they're ever gonna let him get to that next level. Like, I knew IC champ, but I was like, could he be a main eventer? And I think everybody just saw him as the porno guy once he got into that gimmick.
Yeah. But you know what, though? It's a character that to this day, I mean, you say Val Venus to any wrestling fan, they know exactly who you're talking about, you know?
My favorite, SummerSlam 98. I came, I saw, then I came again. Yeah, you guys had the accelerator for that one as well. Superstars Pack 2. Lord Tensai.
Yeah.
I got nothing else to say about that. I mean, I guess we got some mist out of it. Cool as a move, but
he had some cool moves.
Yeah,
you know.
I like, dude. Giant Bernard was just, you know what I'm talking about, guys. Like, Giant Bernard was dope. Prince Albert and Lord Tensai, not so much. I'm glad he's a trainer now, though. Albert's a dope trainer. Ryback was put into this game. Good to see Ryback doing his thing. Drew McIntyre. Weird to see him as DLC. Like, how did somebody who was like in the regular game just become DLC? Was it his standing with the company?
No. If I noticed that too when I was playing it. Most of the roster, most times when it comes to the roster, especially towards like 12, actually starting with maybe 9 even Road to WrestleMania, a lot of the roster is driven by what we do in our single player campaign, whether that's Road to WrestleMania, and with WWE'13, the fact that we were doing the Attitude Era, it meant that in order to even do this mode, there were certain things that we just needed to have. Iron Mike Tyson was one, because you can't cover the Attitude Era without, talking, discussing and, reliving WrestleMania 14. So, like, he was a given. He was somebody that we had to get for this mode to even be what it was. And beyond that, it was like once because Corey was in charge of this mode. So once he had, spec'd out all the matches that he wanted to have in the mode, you then have to go, like a lot of the roster then has to be set aside to make space for these Attitude Era wrestlers. So the fact that some of these guys who were on the current roster had to end up be DLC was because of that, because we needed space for the Attitude Era on the disc for the mode itself. And then we used DLC as a way to supplement some of the more current guys, that we weren't able to include on the disc.
That makes sense. That makes sense. Yoshitatsu was part of that too. I do not want to disrespect my boy Yoshitatsu. I always liked him.
He did mocap.
Oh, did he? Yeah, Yoshitatsu is nice, man. Remind me after. I have a funny story.
He wasn't very good at it, but
I have a funny Yoshitatsu story that he was good at after this. But I gotta tell you offline, though. I can't tell you on here.
All
right. Let's see. Who else did we have in this? You had AJ Lee. I think that's when she was wearing the checkered pants still.
Yeah.
Natalia was in this. Ministry of Darkness, Undertaker, alternate attire. You guys had the 10 new championship pack. Like, dude, why couldn't these championships stay, some of them? Like, I never understood why the belts would get removed like that, too. Just,
Didn't they? Didn't
No, AWA belt got removed. I think they would put, like, parts of it in later and created parts. Sometimes the ECW television title would be removed. We never got a WCW television title. I don't know why. I don't know if it's still in the trash can when Scott Hall shot it in there in WCW. I don't know what happened to the TV title as well. But I was happy that we got these belts, though. Like, it was just nice to have variety in here, to have over 40 different belts you could choose from and mess around with for your universe mode. So,
I thought this was this was like the first year, in my opinion, that I think we really hit it out of the park with the DLC.
Oh, I'm going to tell you the best part of the DLC. We're getting to it. The You're Welcome in 5 Languages pack, I never understood why they had all that in there. I guess maybe because of Antonio Cesaro back then, and the Usos were in this. Layla as well. Layla, so underrated. And I ain't talking about wrestling skills, boys. I ain't talking wrestling skills. We even got Attitude Era legend Brian Pillman and Chainsaw Charlie. Terry Funk. Yeah. So those were nice too, man. But Brian, before we get to my favorite part of it, which is probably yours as well, I had to pump your brakes there real quick. I know you're ready to talk about that. The superstars. How come no D'Lo, bro? No D'Lo, no Test, Al Snow, or the Hollies. I had China written down too, but I already know why for that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, obviously you can't get everybody in, and
Listen, I just needed my Sky High, bro. That's it. That was my move. The Sky High and the Lowdown.
Yeah, that would be a question.
European title.
We have to. That's a question for. We got to direct towards the homeboy Corey. He might have an answer for that. I can only surmise and guess that, they just didn't figure into the whatever matches that he had slotted for the mode. Because we stayed pretty high level with main event, upper mid to main event matches and everything. So that'd be my only guess.
Hold on, I'm getting hit up now in here too for questions. APA were in this. I think they were the Acolytes though. I don't know if they had the APA attire. I can't remember now.
They did have the APA attire.
Okay,
I was playing it the other day. Yeah.
Shout out to Derek in the chat. I know that Derek was a big Acolytes fan when they used to have the weird drawings on the chest and shit. Derek told me so many funny stories, bro. I remember when I first heard about Billy Gunn's theme song. This is how, when I used to really watch wrestling as a kid, I could tell you like the episodes of Raw I missed. I missed this episode of Raw. I think Billy Gunn debuted the Ass Man theme on the episode Mankind Missed. I think that was when my mom was like tripping, like wrestling's too violent, they curse too much. I'm like, Mom, why are you tripping about this? And then she was just like, I don't want you and your brother watching it anymore. These guys are crazy. We miss it. Mankind wins the title. I was just like, really, Mom? We can't have this again. She's like, all right, you guys can watch it. I don't care anymore. Do what you want. I was just like, man. He told me.
She's looking out for you. She's looking out for you. That's all. As a good mama should.
Yeah, but I didn't get to hear Billy Gunn's debut of I'm an Ass Man theme. I thought my boy Derek was lying to me in school. He was like, no, he came out to a song. He's like, I'm an Ass Man. I'm like, bro, don't ever tell me that. Stop trying to be funny. He's like, no, dude, I swear to God. He's like, I'm not joking. And just so funny, man, to think of some of this stuff. let's see here. Oh, PR Nightmare asked about Taz. Taz was working at a different company at the time. TNA. He couldn't handle being yelled at in his ear anymore, which I completely respect and understand.
Oh, yeah. How could you not?
Yeah. Who else was there?
Vader.
Here it is.
Ken
MTO
Shamrock.
He asked why in the Attitude Era mode did it end at WrestleMania 15 instead of X7 in real life? I'll take the first part of this, Brian. Honestly, bro, there's no real ending place for the Attitude Era. I've heard people say it's WrestleMania 17. I tend to think that way. And then there's a little like hybrid period of the Alliance and all that bullshiggity that went on during that time. Some people think it's after 18. Some people think it's the draft. I don't know, Brian. Was there any directive on where to end this?
Well, I mean, like I said, Corey was the one who designed this. But it would be my guess to think that, I mean, because we covered a lot. There were a lot of matches. Like we covered a lot of shit in this mode. And yes, I guess, you can kind of,
Uh-oh. Did I lose you again? We're having connectivity issues again. Not sure yet. But, yeah, the Attitude Era, it just depends on where you wanted it to begin and start from, bro. To me, that's the main thing. Like, there's no set place for it. There's no exact, it ends here, it starts here. It's kind of what you want to believe it to start. Some people, I heard someone argue that it was 1996 the other day on a different podcast. And I'm like, it kind of makes sense for what they were trying to set up back then. So, like I said, it varies. Did we get Brian? You back?
I hear you.
Okay. Yeah.
And I'm so sorry, man.
No, it's the Wi-Fi was acting up again. You're good, man. I don't know if it's you or me, but we're good.
It's
though.
It's me.
I
just got shitty Wi-Fi. I need to upgrade.
I just explained though that answer though. I figured where you were going with that. Where Corey probably had to pick a start point and an end point. He was just like, "Cool, this is where we can get the most people in. This is what we did." Arenas though, Brian,
Yeah.
you guys crushed it with arenas. So here's my problem with this: you guys set the bar so high with this game that like when we go forward, I'm like, bro, we had like 30 arenas last time. Why can't we have this again? You guys had so many arenas, bro. You had like Unforgiven 98, 99. Then we would get the current arenas. You just put so much into this. Is that like poor expectations to expect that as fans?
No, I don't. I don't think that. I think, look, here's the thing. Like, I get people kind of being disappointed when they get one version of the game, like 13, for example, and then the next game they get, it may not have everything that the previous game had. As a consumer, I can understand. It was like, well, why not? But like when it comes to us, at THQ and with Corey, leading the creative, our thing was to make each one of the games we were working on at that time stand on its own, and have its own identity. We weren't so readily thinking that, okay, so we're doing all this for this game because this game needed it. We're covering the Attitude Era. It was all about what is going to best serve the product that we're developing now. Now that's not to say, obviously, a lot of things do get carried over. But, I think for this, it was an Attitude Era. So, yeah, we had all the arenas that we needed to have to, make this mode, work and function and recreate a lot of those older matches. The same way that when we moved into 14, we had all those WrestleMania arenas, which I've heard people complain. And again, I get it. It's like, well, you had them in one year. Like, why can't we get them again? And sometimes we do our best, to try to bring over and carry over things that we think are the most popular or the most vital into any, New Year's game. But a lot of times we can't get everything because at the same time, we have to look at, well, what's new? Like what new pay-per-views, what new arenas do we have to create that we didn't have to account for in the previous? So it becomes this balancing act,
I agree. And then you got to figure out what's going to sell the next game, too. Let me ask you this, Brian. This will probably be a simple one before we get into the moves, because I do want to get into that. The idea of this Attitude Era mode, do you think there was room for a part 2? Was that ever in like the thought process of the plans, maybe for 14 to possibly be like, we'll do part 1 here and then we can sell it again next year?
No, I don't think so. I don't think that was ever in the plans. Just for the simple fact that just me knowing Corey, and I'd agree with him about this. Like, again, like I was saying, it's like, we always tried to do our best to make each one of these games we worked on stand on its own, apart, like its own thing, for better or worse. For example, like pretty much all the games that we've done up to this point, they all have their own identities for better or for worse. I mean, you can look at SmackDown vs. Raw 2007, compare that to SmackDown vs. Raw 2008. That's one of the worst examples, but it had its own identity. It had its own feel. And when we were doing the Attitude Era, I can't imagine that Corey was also thinking, oh, we'll just do this again. Because that's like a lack of creativity. I think the route that we chose to go after this was, I mean, you said, did we raise expectations so high? I honestly didn't think we did it for this one, but I do think that for 14, I think that is when expectations went through the freaking roof. Again, for better or worse, but I will take, going for homers all the time and just trying to put as much content and shit as we can in, versus, because our biggest priority was just to make sure that the game we were working on was going to be worth the customers' time and money,
Yeah, no, that's a big thing, and I do agree with you on each game having its own identity. Like when you say a game, something pops up in my head with that game. Like if you're like SVR 09, I'm like, oh, the tag teams, debut of Road to WrestleMania, like those things just happen. It doesn't feel like that anymore, and I'm sure we'll get into that when we do like our overall like 2K view process on everything. But like, I don't know, man. I think the Attitude Era thing, here's what I think left people a little disappointed. I think people maybe wanted to play some of the WCW stuff too. I think people really wanted to get into like the Ric Flair Goldberg thing. Like you brought it up, but then you never really emphasized. And I know that's probably not on you guys. I'm sure that's a WWE thing. Where they're like,
no, that was probably an us thing, because that was something that when I was going back, a couple of days ago, and I'm still playing through it. I'm almost done with the Attitude Era. That was the first thing I thought of. I'm like, man, I think the one improvement I would have made is to try to incorporate. And I want to believe that Corey might have even wanted to do this himself. It was just a matter of, again, cost. But it would have really been nice to have had parallel matches featuring WCW, because we have the whole ratings chart of what ratings and like that week-to-week battle. It would have been cool to have, whether they were bonus matches or just other matches parallel to what was happening in the WWE from WCW side. I think that would have been really cool to have had. But again, at that point, you're going into, well, who can we get? Because, if we're going to do WCW, that means, that announced team, or at least, the snippets, which we use a lot of the snippets from actual matches.
Yeah, you're breaking up a little bit too. But yeah, that makes sense though, depending on announced teams and everything else when it comes to it. It all matters when it comes down to that. I just thought it would be cool if you could go through and actually play some of the WCW feuds, like show Goldberg and why Goldberg was a big ratings draw, or show why it was a huge success when the NWO first came in, and it was because of maybe Hogan, Luger. But you can't have all that stuff, and you got to take time to account for what was going to happen as far as this works, this doesn't work, and how we were going to just make things happen with it. Let's see here. The next thing we're going to talk about is Moves Pack, but it looks like Brian's connection is acting up once again here. So, you know what? We're going to call him live. We're going to live on the show. All right, we just tried to give Bryan a call back, so hopefully he can get this message. I don't know if he's restarting his internet or what else, but we were just going through the WWE'13 series and just discussing how they could have maybe made it better by adding some WCW matches into it. I mean, you talk about it throughout the Monday Night Wars, and maybe adding some of those matches could have been a bigger deal. You could have just showcased more what WCW was about versus just telling us the story. I don't know. I just think that could have been a nice caveat, like other people had brought up before. And like I said, I'm going to try and call him again here. You guys can listen to it live. I'm just going to pause it for a second.
Conrad.
All right. Yeah, Bryan. I think you are.
Oh, man.
I think you are back, brother.
I'm so sorry.
No, you're good, man. Don't.
The next time.
Again. We're having technical issues. Looks like he's stuck. I don't know. I'll give him a second here. But yeah, we're just going over WWE'13 Attitude Era mode. If you guys have questions about it, we went through Mike Tyson already. The superstars in the game, why we were missing some of the superstars that, you know, some people would have liked and seen, maybe like a D-Lo, Test, Al Snow, Hardcore Holly, Crash Holly, just different people like that. And hopefully we can get into some of the movesets here with Bryan momentarily once he can get into it here. Unfortunately, it looks like he is not in right now. But as far as this game goes, though, did you guys feel like a lot of the face scans were off, too? Like, when it just came down to it, I felt like a lot of the face scans were either really good or really poor during this time period. Even with some of the current superstars like a Zack Ryder or some of the people who were finally just catching, like, their big breaks. Sometimes it just didn't feel right, and it just wasn't working for me. And that's exactly how I felt with the just entire process of scanning some of the people's faces. It just didn't work when it came down to it. We brought up lots of arenas that were in the game, kind of questioned how arenas would disappear from games and then, you know, they would take them out. Next year we wouldn't have like the Unforgiven arena just because, and you just wonder, like, why can't we have the same thing that we had the year before? Bryan took his time to explain that to us as well. Just going through, and looks like Sick just put a question in here. Yeah, Sick, I'll hang on to this one once we can hopefully get Bryan back in here, man. Unfortunately, his internet seems to be crapping out on us tonight. Let me see if maybe we could just get Bryan via audio here, and we'll see if that works. Bryan, are you back?
Hello? I'm back. Can you see me? I'm good.
Okay, yep. All right. I think you're back in. Hopefully it doesn't crap out on us. I was kind of buying us some time in between, though, so we're just rolling with the punches here. We got some questions.
I'm so sorry, man. I'm so sorry about this.
No, don't worry about it, man. Don't worry about it. We're live,
No,
pal.
brother, I do worry about it.
No, we're live. I don't care. Like, it is what it is. I'm interviewing Bryan Williams. I never thought this day would happen. Like, you know, you're Hollywood to me. I'm like, oh no, Bryan ain't messing with me.
Shit. If I was Hollywood, I'd have better. I'd have better Wi-Fi. If I was Hollywood.
Hey man, it's hard out here right now, man. We're in a pandemic, so
Yeah,
let's just hop right into the moves, man. I bought us enough time. I kind of reviewed what we were just talking about with the people. Let's get into some of these DLC moves, Bryan. You put some really dope ones in here. Brock Lesnar, he started using the Kimura lock around this time. Added that in as a nice little submission move. We had Chris Jericho's Lion Salt. I was just kind of like, I don't know why that had to get put in. But that goes back to, remember what I told you with Marcus and the kid who was putting the moves in. The Lion Saw got taken out a while ago by you, so it was nice to see that get reintroduced. The triangle drop kick was really dope. One of my favorite moves from this pack, the Heart Lock. Now, I was starting to just get into NXT at the time, and Tyson Kidd was using that as his finisher. I remember he beat, Michael McGillicuddy, I guess I have to say the name. Curtis Axel today.
Curtis Axel, yeah.
But yeah, he would lock that bad boy. I love that move. Like Tyson Kidd and a lot of those guys were like just being rebuilt down there, and I loved NXT like during this time frame.
Tyson Kidd is the homie, man. I love him. Him and Natty. They're friends. So it was I saw him do that move and I was like, I have to get this in there. This is too dope.
Let me see, what else do we have? We have the top rope super German suplex. Boys weren't ready for that. That's some strong style, if you don't know. Let's see here. Delayed vertical suplex power slam. Some move called the Omega Driver. I don't know where that came from.
Oh, yeah. Huh.
Weird. Airplane spin. I'm sure that was for my boy Cesaro. Top rope brain buster. Flapjack cutter combo.
The airplane spin was. I actually put that in there for Daniel Bryan.
Ooh, yeah. Yeah, he did. He did use that before in Ring of Honor.
Yeah, Ring of Honor.
Yep.
But Cesaro did it as well, of course.
Yeah, so, I don't know if was the UFO ever in a game. I feel like you put it in one of these packs.
I think so. Yeah, I believe so.
I'm pretty sure you did. If you guys have never seen Cesaro do the UFO, it is one of the dopest moves. I think he just did it on somebody too recently. Maybe.
He did it on SmackDown.
Was it Gulak?
Last week or before? I think it was Gulak. Yeah. No, he did it. Yeah, it was during the kickoff match, WrestleMania.
Yeah, dude, Cesaro is just dope. Go watch it.
Yeah, we never had that. We never had that move in the game.
Top rope brain buster.
Yeah.
Yeah, good old days. El Generico. Hopefully he's taking care of those orphans, man. I know he retired from pro wrestling. We miss him, man. Tough stuff.
That was captured by Sanjay and Jay Lethal. They did that.
Who was El Generico? Sanjay? No. I'm pretty sure that it was Jay who gave it to Sanjay. Okay. Sanjay Dutt, like I said, that moon stomp shit, bro, never on me, bro. I will cry. I'd be like, you know what? I'm not wrestling no more. I quit. I'm not taking that move. I'm scared. You guys had the flapjack cutter combo in here. I don't know if that was for like a DDP or who that was put in for. Maybe Rikishi? I don't know if he had that. He used to do that move, but a lot of guys did that move, so maybe it was just kind of like a solve everything with it.
Yeah, maybe.
Let's see. Small package driver.
Seth Rollins.
You know. The sleeper suplex. Jesus. My neck hurts just thinking about that. The Brock lock.
Oh, yeah.
People don't remember that. Muffler. Big Johnny, my muffler fell out. Look it up if you don't know what I'm talking about. Brian, you've seen that video?
I did, yeah.
Oh, cracks me up every time I watch that. Spinning double leg takedown. Fujiwara armbar. Pin up strong is a really dope move too. I don't know if a lot of people remember that. I think that was Natty's submission.
Yeah, it was Natty's, yeah.
Super dope. When her and Beth Phoenix were teaming up, kind of, they had the little tag team, I guess. What were they? The Divas of Doom?
Divas of Doom, yeah.
Yeah, they were good. Let's see here. Lift single underhook DDT.
That was, what was that, Bloody Sunday?
Yes. Prince Devitt, we'll say.
Yep.
Corner back elbow strikes. I can't remember who I'm trying to think of who was doing those at the time.
Okay, so basically, like this first moves pack, what I did is that I went in and I did two things, because I know we had removed a lot of moves from the previous games for reasons that I explained on past episodes, and so I took this DLC pack to do two things, to basically add in basically just dope moves that other wrestlers and other promotions were doing, and then to also fill the gaps of a lot of kind of classic or basic wrestling moves that the game just needed to have. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So that was my modus operandi with this first DLC pack for the moves pack.
Dope. Now, as far as the move pack goes, I also like something else that you did with the moves this year, and I'm pretty sure this was you because I remember an interview, I think, with you bringing this up. The making moves look less awkward with some of the people. So let's say a small guy was supposed to do a clothesline on a bigger dude from behind, and it would just look really awkward. And instead, it would flip the move to him doing a drop kick instead. Like they had certain moves that would just, make it look better versus, that clothesline would look awkward from that angle. Just have him do a drop kick instead. So
right. Yeah.
I really like those that you guys swapped those moves out for that. I couldn't figure out like proper terminology for it, but I remember it being in this game.
Yeah, contextual moves. So, like, if you were, doing something, like you were gonna, use an attack that was normally used against the front of an opponent, if that opponent happened to change direction or maybe they put their back to you, we would then slot in a move that was appropriate for striking them in the rear, and for top rope moves as well too. So yeah, that was one thing that was introduced in this year's game.
PR Nightmare brought up, I miss grapple moves where you had control of where like the choke slam would put a person. Just sad. I think that was in here, but I think maybe it's gone from the current ones. But he just misses the direction where you could just move people kind of to where you wanted them to be.
Like directional throws or the ultimate control grapples?
I think it's like the directional ones. Like if you're gonna do the choke slam, like you said, and you wanted to set the person up in the middle of the ring, you could kind of turn them a little bit. You're like, yeah, wait right there. Now I'm.
You can't do that in 20.
I don't know if you can anymore. He said he misses it from being in the games. Like I haven't played 20, so I can't.
Yeah, man, I would hate to see that. Oh, all right.
I can't speak to that.
Yeah, me neither.
I know 20's going through some hard times, Daddy. Hard times. Let's see here. Resiliency. I loved resiliency. When you had a finisher, you could expand your pen meter a little bit, make the matches last a little bit longer so that you could get in there. I thought that was a really cool feature. I don't know if were you part of the pen system team? Is that yours?
I was part of the. Put my foot up real quick. I was part of the ability team. Because these things they all go back to SBR 08. All these. The fighting styles turned into abilities, which then abilities will remain abilities, and then some of them turned into skills. But I was in charge of all that, like resiliency, ring escape. Springboards were always in the game, but I turned them into an ability, outside dives, leverage pins. Like these were all things that I designed and came up with. The one thing that I didn't like, I love resiliency. I thought that was just a no-brainer because I kept hearing JR always talk about how resilient somebody is. They were kicking out of pins and shit. And I was like, oh, this would be a great ability. So, I pitched it to Yuke and they liked it. And, Corey was cool with it too. So the one thing I liked about it in these earlier games was that you could use it for submissions as well as pins. Which when we got into like the Xbox One, PS4 days, it was, basically just for pins. But I liked the early resiliency from this game and then at 14. I dug that.
Right. What else did I have written down here? Select how many finishers you could do. You could have infinite amount of finishers. You could just have two dudes just beating the hell out. You could do the Goldberg-Lesnar match from 33 when I was there. Like, that was one of the craziest matches I ever saw. Like, I was like, that was the right... Like I went into it, I'm like, this better not be worse than 20, man. I paid money for these seats, and I'm hot out here. I'm ready to go already at this point. And then they went out, and it was just like, spear, F5, spear, F5, clothesline, couple suplex cities, and then F5 done. I'm like, perfect. That's exactly how it needed to be. It worked in that favor for me that night. We also had the match experience. You can make a match go quick, normal. I was personally a big fan of the epic. Yeah, you would just mad kickouts, and hopefully it worked. But this was the game with all the one counts too, man. I don't know if you remember when people complained to Aubrey about this.
Oh, of course.
And then Aubrey blamed us, and we were like, "No, bro, it's you."
This was one of the first times, or maybe second times, but like this like as soon as the game was out, like we all were made aware of this, and I think it's because we had Aubrey was on his game, and he was getting flooded with complaints and all this kind of stuff. So yeah, I definitely remember the one counts, and I feel bad because like I never noticed it, during development. I don't know if it was something that was introduced late during the QA phase, which wouldn't surprise me because, there are times where, you have things working one way, but certain other fixes will then inadvertently cause other things that were working well to go bad. So I don't know if it was one of those situations, but yeah, I definitely remember the 1 count situation.
You know what though? I think this was the year where you did the little blogs with him, right? Where you would like pop up, you're like, "Hey guys, I'm gonna show you today how to do this OMG move" or something like that, right?
Yeah.
Where you were playing through. I think it wasn't prevalent in those before until like maybe it was the patch 1 update or whatever, and then that made it an issue. Because I remember in the videos, nobody saw that.
Yeah, and I never noticed it, which is funny because, like I said, I mean, I was always playing the game, so that I think that's probably the most likely situation is that some other bug fixes ended up breaking some other things, which resulted in those 1 counts.
Other small things, referee sliding into pinfalls.
Yeah.
I just always like that in the game a little bit. I know sometimes some people find it a little like annoying or it could glitch a little bit because of it, but I just thought it was a nice little touch.
Yeah, me too.
Let's see, what else do we have here?
OMGs.
Oh yes. I'm just trying to make sure that because I skipped over it into ref pinfalls. Tables.
Oh.
You could do moves on top of the table finally. Like I said, these games had this like No Mercy-esque, like you guys started putting stuff in from then, like get on top of the tables. Now you can get rock bottom through the table and everything else. And you know what? Honestly, when I was watching this, I missed the freedom to like suplex someone just through the table from the outside. We don't have that.
Me too.
We don't have
Me
that
too,
anymore.
man.
I don't know. Not that it wasn't a bad idea. I get they were trying to make the game look better in future iterations, but I'm just like, damn, dude, I missed that. Like, it was so good back then, too. And speaking of moves, PR Nightmare wanted me to correct myself. He was talking about the user control moves from back in the day, the fall away slams and stuff like that.
Okay, yeah. I think we got rid of those. Yeah, we did. We got rid of them in 12, I want to say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
OMG moves and catch finishers, though, Brian. What do you think of these puppies? These were game changers, I felt.
Yeah, so this was another feature that was originally pitched to us by Yuke, and it started out, the internal name for them were Spectacular Moments, and it started out with 2 that they had in their design, which was the ring break and the barricade break, and maybe the announce table as well. But they were the ones that pitched this, and I was put in charge of working with them on the design, and basically working with Yuke, we figured out, okay, well, how the OMGs were going to function, in terms of the momentum system and like when you have a finisher stored, this, that, and the other. So once we got the basic functionality of it down, I then went and it was already agreed upon because the ring break was a big one, obviously. And once they got that working and we saw the first build of that functioning correctly, then it was like, okay, now we have to, expand this thing to other, moments. And so when I came up and pitched, the remaining OMGs, the apron DDT, the ring post where you smash the guy with the big boot with his face into the ring post. I took that from Hernandez. I saw him do that in TNA, and I was like, "Oh, that'll be dope." So I added that one. The outside superplex, where you could begin a superplex inside, but then dump the guy outside the ring. I pitched that, and I got that from having watched an episode of Superstars with the homies Trent and Kalen Croft and
the Dude Busters.
TJ. The Dude Busters. TJ was in there with Harry and the Usos, and they did, like, I'd always seen that move teased, but that was the first time that I'd ever seen the move actually executed. And obviously, the guy who got dumped out was caught by the guys that were ringside. But when I saw that happen, I was like, okay, that's the next OMG. Let's throw that one in there.
Oh, so you were just watching and just checking boxes like, yep, that's an OMG. That's an OMG.
Oh, yeah, man. I mean, that's the fun of the job, the catching finishers, I came up with that. A lot of it just based off of seeing Orton catching fools out of midair with the RKO.
That was dope because this was like right after Evan Bourne and all that stuff happened with him going for the shooting star press, and he nailed it. Good stuff. And Cena would catch people all the time too.
Yeah, and did the double finishers Were they in this one, or were that 14 where they were implemented? I forget.
I think it's 14. I don't have it in my notes.
Yeah, we have the double finishers or something. Yeah, again, like not to toot my own horn, but toot. I was like the OMG czar, and I was one that came up with the name OMG because we kept calling them spectacular moments, and I was like, all right, first of all, we're not gonna have HUD on the screen that says spectacular moments. That's a long ass piece of text. And it was just around the time that the WWE had released. Remember that DVD of OMG moments?
Yes.
I saw that and I was like,
money.
We should brand it that. It's in keeping with WWE. It fits. It's small. You can see it on the screen. It's like boom. That's perfect. So OMGs became a thing, and yeah, it was always fun. I had so much fun just coming up with crazy shit to add to it.
As a fan, Brian, I support that decision. That was the wiser choice. I think I remember someone else in an interview saying that they were going to call them spectacular moments or something. I was like, dude, that's horrible. Way too tongue twister for your interviews and stuff, too, before the game comes out. If you do this spectacular moment where I'm just like, it's too much, bro. Keep it simple.
Way too much. Way too much.
New match types, man. You guys have brought back the special guest ref. I was sad ref shirt a little bit, but special guest referee needs to be in the future games. I don't know what is so bad about this mode that, like, it sucks. I'm like, dude, you press one button half the damn time. Like, come on, man. I know maybe it's worse and maybe it's not that easy, but put it back in. It's fun. All right, it's just fun with the friends. As long as you don't take everything too seriously and throw the controllers, like, you'll have fun with this, man. I was just watching Dank Ops and I think CM Pulse and a couple other guys play, and they were just having fun laughing at this, and they were two refs screwing each other out of the matches, and I was just like, dude, now that's fun. That's just pure fun. I think they're playing Here Comes the Pain. And I'm like,
I saw that thumbnail on YouTube.
Yeah, I think Xavier Woods was in there too, and I'm just like, dude, why can't we have this today, bro? It's not like, I don't know. It just hurts me. And
all right,
go ahead.
Here's the thing about that match type in particular. You're right. For this match, special referee, there's no way that this match type cannot exist in any wrestling game. And honestly, I don't give a fuck what kind of time constraints you're under, because programmatically and just in terms of the work involved, this is nothing compared to any other type of match type that you can design and implement into a game. So I think, one, we were glad to bring it back because we were getting a lot of feedback from fans about how they missed this match type. And honestly, the only reason that it was even removed was we just didn't think that people were spending a lot of time in it, But once we started, hearing, feedback from the fans, it's like, all right, let's bring it back, because honestly, it's in terms of cost and time spent towards development of this particular match type, it's cake.
You heard it here first, folks. Cake. I Quit matches were brought into the game. These were a little different. They were kind of weird from the old way where you just stick the microphone and you never knew if the person was going to quit until it flashes across the screen. So this was different, but I do like parts of what you guys added, like the you get in someone's face a little bit, like, yeah, you better quit, you piece of so and so, and it would shake a little bit more. You guys added some cool things into there for this. I thought it was dope.
Yeah, I designed this match type. Ultimately, I'm okay with how it turned out, but this was not. Originally, most of the intimidation, like when you press B to force the referee to see if he wants to quit, and then being able to taunt and intimidate the guy into quitting by having the meter shake, were things that were all part of the original design. But I was really, really, really pushing to get the voiceover for the superstars implemented, so that when they did quit, you got that satisfaction of hearing the actual wrestlers saying, "I quit." Ultimately, it was, I guess, too much of an ask, and so I basically just had to settle for what ended up being, the match itself. But yeah, I've heard mixed things about it. I know there are some people that
some
that
love
dug
it, some hate it.
Yeah, I'm proud of the work that I did on it. Ultimately, I was hoping for more in terms of the presentation, because for me, my big selling point on it was the fact that, we gotta have the voices in there, you know?
Right.
It's like,
I think that would have added to it too, especially for the Rock match type that was in with Mankind. I watched that live. Like, that was such a brutal match. And that's the main thing you remember is the I quit. Okay, it's over.
And how satisfying it would have been if you could get to that point and actually hear, the superstar, verbally, quitting the match. But
now, how would you get everybody to do that, though? I mean, would the sound team go out to them, or would they just have to send a little sample clip of them saying it? Is it that simple?
We would have had to gone and capture the talent, and like when we added voiceover for I think when we added Ryback to the game, and in his entrance, you heard him do the whole "Feed Me More," and we started adding taunts where you do a taunt and you'd hear the guy or gal, you'd hear that VO. We record that in the same way where like when I recorded Ryback, for example, and like the primetime players, for their entrance, I was flown out to WWE. I think I went to a Raw, and I was there backstage, and whenever they had time, me and my coworker Steve Eastless, we set up. They gave us a small little backroom area where we kind of made this makeshift studio, and whoever we needed, we just brought them into the booth, told them what we needed from them, and just recorded that way. So we could have done it like that, or during their off time. A lot of times, if we needed to record announcers or voiceover from superstars for Road to WrestleMania or whatever, we, depending on where they were located, we'd rent out a studio. We'd have one of the designers fly out with, again, my boy Steve Eastless, and record with them there, sit with them, kind of direct their VO. So I didn't think it was definitely possible. I think just based off of how big the roster was, and it didn't seem likely that we'd be able to get everybody. It just kind of became too grand of a thing. So,
not mad at it though. That it's a tough ask. I could imagine that being just like a pain too, to try to get as many people as you can in there to do it. What was the next thing I wanted to bring up here? We brought up that we had King of the Rings. You guys updated the Inferno match a little bit, added some cool minor things in there if you guys want to check that out. I love the retro cage designs you guys put in. The blue steel cage and the black one. You guys had the Hogan cage, like oh damn, this is gonna hurt.
Yeah, I love that original old school blue cage. Yeah, the one, like you said, the prison bar cage. Like that's a cage right there.
Yeah, I was thinking like Bossman and Hogan, or Hogan and Bundy, because they couldn't climb through the mesh cage because they had those big ass feet. I got big feet too, so I know the pain, like trying to hop a fence. Hopping the fence ain't easy for me as it is for other people because my toes don't fit into the slots. So I know Hogan. I feel you, brother. Let's see here. You guys have 40 titles brought in. Creighton Arena, you guys added stages to it. I thought that was a nice touch, dude. Yeah. And you could tell what stages were added in. You could do so much with those.
Yeah.
Shout out to the modders too, like figured out how to like move them forward and stuff, and then cut. Dudes are geniuses, man. So I always appreciate people who create stuff for the games.
Me too.
Edit a belt. You guys kind of brought that in, kind of like the superstar threads. You could change the belt at this point, but you couldn't really do too much with it. But you knew Create a Title was coming.
This was the start of bringing back Create a Championship.
Yeah, it was the tease. I always call it the strip tease a little bit, like, oh, not naked yet. Bow.
Yeah.
Have fun with that.
But you got it though. You're right. It was like foreshadowing what was coming next.
It's probably a better thing I should have said. Hopefully, there's no kids listening to this. Strip clubs are bad. So let's see here. 64 layers on PS3, bro. We got beef over this, man. How come it took us so long to get those layers? Was it the way the PS3 was made up?
More than likely. Yeah. Like I said, I'm not a tech guy, but I do know that during the development of this, 360 and PS3, working, and that's why, so when we made the move from PS2 to 360, obviously prior to SVR07, like, the SmackDown series was like the primary SKU was PlayStation 2. When we made the next generational leap to the consoles with 360 PS3, it switched from the PlayStation to the Xbox being the primary console that it's developed for, and then ported on to the PS3. And a lot of that had to do with the infrastructure of those consoles, where it was just easier to program the 360 than it was for the PS3. So that was why there was that discrepancy between the layer count between the two. It took us a while to try to get them, simpatico, but we eventually did. But yeah, that's why that was.
I think Dan told me his last year about that, actually. I think I messaged him about it or something. I'm like, hey, how come the layers aren't right? And then I think he explained the same thing to me, that it was just a way this hardware was set up with Sony, that it would take some time, but he thinks that they could eventually get to it. So they did, though. Can't complain about that. Yeah. Universe Mode 3.0, dude, Paul Heyman helped out with this. Not so great. I don't know. What's the mystery with the Paul Heyman thing, Brian? Like, did he really help out, or was this one of Heyman's hustles?
was this the game that he was attached to a universe?
What did they call him, a curator? I can't remember what they called him in this, but it didn't work at all.
He didn't. No, he didn't do shit, man.
Okay.
I mean, all respect to Mr. Heyman, but no, he might have.
Maybe it was a selling point, or maybe he gave an idea and said, "Put my name in."
Yeah, he did enough. I'm sure he would probably. I'm sure he sent like some ideas for like stories or things like that. But that was it. Like, he was not heavily involved in any way creatively with the implementation of the mode itself and any of that stuff.
Brian, I'm trying to fly through some of this because we do have some fan questions that I kind of want to get to real quick in the chat, and then let you wrap up on this. Attitude Era mode playthrough, I thought it was fun for the most part. I know you're doing it now. What do you think of it, just the playthrough part?
Overall, it's good. I took a lot from playing this game, like experience-wise, as a player, as a gamer. There are a lot of things that I encountered with some of these objectives that I took note of, and I took note of as far as like whatever we do moving forward, without me thinking that I was ever going to be put in a position where I was then going to be in charge of designing this stuff, which eventually happened with 15. But for me, there were some objectives in Attitude Era that bordered on just frustratingly insane. And they were few and far between, but there were some things that we were asked to do as players to complete, these objectives, where I was like, okay, this could have been handled in a much better way. I get trying to make things challenging, but there's a very fine line between, because challenging can be fun. Frustration results in me throwing my fucking controller. And there were times completing some of these objectives where I wanted to just chuck my controller. And I'm pretty sure I did at one point. But like I said, a lot of those were few and far between. But when I got put in charge of Showcase for 15, I definitely went back and I revisited like some of the experiences that I felt playing Attitude Era that I did not want to have with Showcase for 15. And I think I did a pretty good job. We'll get to that when we get to it, but
because for 14 I have one that's very frustrating for me specifically. I think it's the last one. You know what I'm talking about, but
the last,
that's really tough. But I like the challenge too, though. I mean, I hate when things are too easy to win games. Where you're like, oh, that sucked. All right.
Yeah, there's challenging, and then there's just cheap. And there were some things so for example, like there was one match during I think it was during Austin's chapter. It was me, Austin, versus Road Dogg, and I had to beat him in 2 minutes. Billy Gunn was at ringside managing Road Dogg, and the two objectives, simple on paper, easy peasy. I had 2 minutes. I had to stunner Billy Gunn at ringside, and then I had to beat Road Dogg in 2 minutes. Right? I'm like, easy enough. And you even start with the finisher, so I'm like, oh, this will be fucking cake. So I run down to the ramp. I see Billy Gunn use that first finisher, stunner, objective completed. Now at this time the clock's running. I get in the ring, clothesline, beating the shit out of Road Dogg, boom, 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 get a finisher or signature, throwing the Thez press punches on him, stand him up, hit him with the stunner, go for the pin. And at this point, that motherfucker Billy Gunn is up on the apron, getting the ref's attention. And I'm like, okay, fair enough. You know, maybe I shouldn't have stunned him so early, but whatever. I still got 45 seconds on the clock. Bingo, bango, bango. Got another finisher. Boom. I hit him again. Road dog. I go to pin him again. This motherfucker again shows up on the apron. I knock him down. I knock Billy Gunn to ringside. I get back, and like time is ticking down. I stand up, Road Dog. I hit him with a DDT, not a finisher, but I've hit him with 2 already. I cover him. 1, 2. The ref stands up and is again talking to Billy Gunn. I was like, okay, this is madness. This is madness. And I just said, fuck it. I tried 3 times. I said, fuck it. I'm just gonna. I don't care about winning that unlockable. I just want to advance. So that was very frustrating to me because having did the design work for 2K15, there are ways that you can mitigate all of those fucking things. You know, like I designed the fuck out of all those objectives. Like not just saying, Yuke, here's the objective. You know, when players do this, boom, and then it clears. It was like, no.
Or could have been Billy Gunn just stayed on the floor after the stunner.
Right. Yes. And I did that. That's the thing that I learned is that when you're doing these objectives, like you really are, you know, the Vince McMahon to Tony Khan. Like you have complete say about fucking everything. So having the experience that I've had working on 15, I look at this 2-minute challenge. I leave the 2 minutes. That's fine. But once you stunner Gunn, I would have in the design. I would have spec'd out. Once the player successfully hits him with that stunner, he is fucking kaput at ringside. He is not coming back. You know what I mean? So that eliminates one nuisance. And then I also probably would have turned off to use ring escape because he would use that and just avoid me. And I'm like, I'm going up. That really bugged me. I didn't like that at all.
That's why I always believe in limits on like ring escapes and everything else. Because later in the 2K games, ring escapes were like unlimited, and I'm like, bro, this is too much. We used to have rules in our like league where it's like, bro, if you ring escape more than 3 times, like we got to DQ you, bro. Like, so keep your ass in the ring, man. Take your beating like a man if you're losing. And the last thing I wrote down was I miss custom music, Brian. But let's run through these questions, and then I'll have you kind of wrap up on this, and then we'll get you out of here because I know I've had you for a long time. Sick comes in with the first question. He says, I have a question. Any ideas as far as features in the game that you guys discussed in the conference room with previous games that never made it into them that you are able to talk about?
I mean, I can talk about anything. I'm just trying to remember.
Is there one idea that sticks out that you were like, oh, we were close to doing this and we just didn't get the chance to?
Okay, yeah. There's one thing that I've been wanting to get in the game forever, which I never not gonna be able to get in now.
Before you incriminate yourself, is this something you want to share now, or is it something that you may want to use later?
No, I'll use it now. I mean, it's not a big thing. It's just a small thing. It's like the first thing that jumped out. So when we made the change, like when I redesigned the corner position, you know, to include being able to place the opponent on the top rope to do like superplexes and all that kind of shit. Mm-hmm. I originally designed that to be where if you place the opponent on the top rope, and let's say you went for you would initiate a grapple on him to do a superplex, top rope brainbuster, any type of avalanche type move, that if the defender reversed that grapple attempt, it would basically transition into a back and forth struggle on the top rope where, you're both trying to gain the advantage of the position, almost like a collar and elbow. Like if you if you grapple at the same time, you got to press the button to like see who gains control. So you get into this little, back and forth skirmish on the top rope. Now, during this mini game or this back and forth, if you were in like a triple threat or a fatal 4-way, if another superstar grappled, the 2 superstars in that position as they were in that game, it would then transition into that third wrestler performing a Tower of Doom superplex on the 2 guys. You know that one spot that I'm talking about?
I hate Tower of Doom spots if you watch my reviews. I get so mad when I see them. I'm like, shitty Tower of Doom spot. Like I feel like they're so overdone today. I'm just like, give it up, guys. Give that up.
I've always been a fan of that spot, and I just thought that would be a clever kind of way to get that implemented. And even to this day, my coworker at Yamamori-san, because he wanted it in too. He always still teases me about the fact that we never got that thing in because he knew how much I wanted it. But there's one example just off the top of my head. But I'm sure that, man, there's all kinds. I mean, it's hard to kind of just pinpoint one. I mean, because that happened. It was like such a normal
thing that happened all the time. Probably like I want this.
Yeah, like every year there was always stuff. I mean, that myself, that Dan, that Justin, that all of us would throw out there. That like once it kind of it's turned down, you just put your focus on okay, well next,
Right.
But yeah, I mean, I tried to bring back GM mode. We talked about that, pitched for that a little bit. But yeah. I'll try to think more on it, but yeah, that's all I got right now.
Mr. Cameron Khan is coming in here. Cameron, I hope you're still in here. He has asked at least 2 or 3 times about a Here Comes the Pain remastered. Bryan, I don't know if we could put this in any more layman's terms for people. Why this cannot happen, but the floor is yours once again on this.
The red tape involved with the licensing alone will just be way too much. So that's the simplest way I can say. It's hard to remaster. It's easy to remaster or remake a game like a Final Fantasy, which is something that is an original IP of Square Enix, and they own that game. They own everything, the characters, all that. You can't trying to remake a game that features talent that you have to license out, even when they're in WWE. You have to get the talent's permission and approval to be in the game, and those contracts are not in perpetuity. You have to get everybody to re-sign, and there's just, like I said, just licensing wise and red tape and everything. It's just it's an impossibility. It would be hell. Yeah. You're better off. So instead of that, I think just enjoy Here Comes the Pain for what it is, and just be on the lookout for hopefully another game that will be evocative of that game and its gameplay.
Yeah, there's a lot of games coming out that have mentioned Here Comes the Pain style gameplay coming up too. So hopefully you can find something good in that, Cameron. Let's see here. Sick is back again. He said, just wanted to say that I liked some of the old features in past games or not. Or rather, I like some of the features in past games or not, excuse me. I gotta give Bryan credit. These games, up until recently, brought me and my fellow XGW brethren years and hours of fun. Yeah, so many cuss-out sessions and just talking mess for hours at night. We were discussing the one night, we were like, yo, how many times did we say, all right, this is the last match, and then we're on at 2 a.m. like in a fatal 4-way, like, nah, dog, you go down this time, we're kick out again. Oh, I'm coming, babe. I saw a video where it was like when you tell your girlfriend one more game, and it was the girl sitting on the bed for like 3 hours, then she finally falls asleep and the dude's still in front of the system. Like, oh, good, she's done. Don't got to worry about that.
Well, thank you. I'm glad you guys enjoyed it.
Somebody yelled at me when I said strip clubs are bad. The Godfather would disagree. I had to say it for the kids' sake, man. We got to keep this PG. I'm trying to get that YouTube money. Let's see. The thing I hated most in recent games was that we had to buy movesets with VC when we had all the moves. Oh, I think he's talking about the My Career. I hated that too, bro.
Dude, that is such fucking bullshit. That is the cheapest and laziest use of unlocks. It is such a fucking trite concept. I fucking hate that decision. Oh man, you really got me on this one. Like, that is something that really gets my goat when it comes to any wrestling game where they start unlocking fucking moves and entrance motions and taunts when at the same time you're asking me to create an original character that I have to use in this mode, but you're then saying that I can't use any of the tools to make the motherfucker that I want. That is bullshit.
Absolutely.
And that is the laziest design choice ever. And oh man, yeah, I really don't like that. I really don't like that. And they make it seem like the moves make oh, because this is a fancy move, we have to put it behind, some unlock. I'm like, motherfucker, you don't know wrestling. Usually, especially in the WWE, the dudes who do the fanciest moves aren't even the dudes on the top.
Right.
What fancy move does John Cena do? What fancy cool move does The Undertaker do? And I'm not saying that they're not good wrestlers, but I'm saying you can't lock a move behind a paywall or VC because you think that it's visually pleasing. It's like, that's got nothing to do with it. Like, if I'm trying to create a high flyer, why are you going to lock all the shit that's
Brian,
part of my
that's why those microtransactions they tried to put in. Remember, you kept hearing rumors microtransactions will be put in. That's why it never worked, bro. I play NBA. It works for that. It ain't working for WWE. Fans have already gotten the stuff. You're not gonna bullshit us into doing it again. Like, come on, bro.
I just don't like that design choice at all.
I definitely saw a bunch of fuck VC to buy moves pop up in my chat like it's filled up with them. So I hear you guys. Bree Neihart, thank you for joining us. I see you in here. I see a lot of thank you Bryans coming up in here. I respect it. Yeah, some people are saying, yeah, that's really dumb. And Original Biggie's going back to the product. And he said, let me save my rant again. He's trying to save his piece for tonight. But look, Brian, this was it for THQ. I know a lot of people blame the U-Draw tablet. I saw someone send it to us when I put up that we were going to talk about this today. You want to know what was the end of THQ? And then he sent me the little Wii U-Draw tablet shit. I don't know when it happened. But this is more so about you, Brian. Like, that's what this series is really about. It's kind of Brian's time while working on these games. I wanted you to kind of give your final thoughts on THQ, man, before we end this. Because next week, we're going to be talking about this game. With I use the Daniel Bryan cover just because that's my boy, so I gotta show some love. I know Rock's that guy, but he was on enough covers. Daniel Bryan deserved this one for me.
Yeah, he did.
So 2K14 will be the game that we talk about, and it's one that I kind of hold near and dear. But Brian, THQ, what did it mean to you, brother?
Well, first of all, to answer that, THQ, man, it meant everything to me. I have a lot of fond memories about THQ. Not the company, but I say not the company, but but in terms of the people that I met, the people that I worked with, friendships that I have to this day. THQ was the place that gave me my start. But I will say that you are wrong about this being THQ's end. That was 14. I know that the cover says WWE 2K14 on it, but when that game first came out, it was WWE 14.
Well,
that game was that was the last game that was developed internally at THQ, inner office, inner Gura. 2K didn't get involved until, the game was damn near done. They eventually, once they took us over, the art changed to the 2K14 of it. But that for me is what I consider, like, that was the final THQ developed game.
Because let me tell you why I said that. Number one, I promise you guys I'm not dumb. I knew that THQ made 14. Easily, you could just tell by the way it plays. Also, the reason I said that was because I think 2K was announced in the middle of 13. You know how you guys do like those the sales and everything with it? I remember 2K was promoting WWE'13 being sold at one point, like, oh, you can get WWE'13 for this price, and that was in the lead up to 14 coming out, and they came in. So I know it's a 2K product in name only, but I know fans see it as kind of like, okay, this was like the changing point in between two.
Yeah,
I know 14's the real like end though, like that's when it was over.
That's interesting. Because for me, and again, I'm old and I drink too much, so maybe my memory is not what it used to be. But so 13 was developed in 2012, and to my recollection and knowledge, so in 2013, as we were starting work on 14, is when we all kind of figured, all right, that that this company wasn't lasting. The reason Dan left was because Corey had to reduce headcount, and he had to choose one designer over the other, and Dan had to go. A lot of people were let go, not just on our team, but just within THQ in general. So, it was definitely the writing was on the wall. And yeah, the Wii, that tablet definitely takes a lot of the blame for why THQ went kaput. But it was also Homefront. They invested a lot in the Homefront into a game that had you played it for any length of time, like 5 or 6 minutes, you would have seen that it's not the game that the higher ups were touting it to be. So it was, for me, it was a 1-2 combo of that, and then that U-Draw tablet fiasco. But it was sad towards the end. When I started my first year on working on the design team for WWE, our Christmas party was at what was it called? It was at this venue in Agoura Hills. I forget the name. I saw Dave Chappelle perform there once, but it's this like concert type, not a concert type hall, but a music venue / comic venue, whatever. And we would have our Christmas parties there. All you can eat, shrimp, scrimps, and lobster and steak, roast beef. They had 3 open bars, karaoke machines. It was fucking fantastic. Like, I basically just wanted to do my job well so I wouldn't get fired so I could go to the next Christmas party. Like, that's how fun those things were. To go from that, and not to mention that all of our company meetings will be held at the hotel across the street from our office building, like a Marriott, in this really big hall space. So to go from that to fast forward to 2013, or I'll say the middle of 2012, and our Christmas party was in the lobby of THQ, no food, had some champagne and beer, so I won't complain about that. Our meetings had went from that Marriott across the street to all of the remaining employees gathered at the foot of the stairs in the main entryway of the office, and that was it. A lot of good people lost their jobs and didn't receive any compensation, any benefits, and we were the lucky ones. The people on the WWE team, because 2K came in, and I'll always be thankful that they did. They rescued us from a bad situation, but it was very sad, man, and I will never forget that final day. I say the final day because technically once the doors officially closed, we still remained working out of the THQ office once 2K took us over. We were the only ones there, doing stuff for 14. But that officially last day was it was equal parts. I mean, it was heartbreaking because you're saying goodbye to people that you probably figure you're not going to see again. Some I have, honestly, because the video game industry is a small industry. But it was like it was a cross between like that last day of high school, when school's out for the summer, where everybody's just walking around like drinking beers, just drinking. They opened up the cafeterias, so everybody was just going in and just like taking whatever they wanted, food wise, drink wise. All the equipment, consoles, video games. We used to have these cabinets where we would store like video games for reference. So anybody could go and just use the library to kind of check out a game if they're trying to see what a competitor is doing or see how it compares to what they're working on. We had this immense collection of video games. That thing was opened up and people were just going in, taking what they wanted. It was a surreal day, especially in light of the fact that we were going to have to show up the following day, or if it was on a Friday, that following Monday, and come to an empty building. So my feelings with THQ are complicated, but overall, like very good memories, and just in terms of the people that I worked with on the WWE franchise. Corey Ledesma, who I've mentioned a lot so far. He was a great boss to me. He gave me my chance. He took a chance and a bet on me, and I'm still doing this thing. Getting able to work with my friend Dan Ryan, Justin Leeper, the project managers that I have, Frank Bowen, who anytime I needed anything from WWE, I just go to Frank the Tank, and I'd be like, hey, Frank, that Lord Third that Undertaker uses now where it's like smoky and it all comes up? And he's like, no, I have no idea. I said, well, I need it. And he was like, all right, well, just send me a clip or something on YouTube and I'll reach out to WWE and see what I can get. just the camaraderie that we all had was something that I will never ever forget. And, you know, I cherished it then, and I cherish it now that it's gone. And, yeah, man, it's just good times, you know, some of the best times professionally that I've had. And I'm really looking forward to talking about 2K14 because, you know, that was a good one for me. I really enjoyed working on that. And I got a lot of shit to talk about 2K15 when I actually joined 2K and the state of that project. And I know it's not a game that is fondly remembered. It wasn't fondly received at the time either, but I have a lot of stuff that I like to get off my chest about that. So I don't know. That's it.
That will be your preview for next week, guys. We'll talk 2K14. And to me, honestly, I know. So many people yelled at me like, "This is the last." I know it's the last one, but to me, this was the end of THQ in my eyes, though. Like, I knew at this point, like, it was over. After 13 came out, I was like, "Yo, it's really over." Like, the people that I love to hear talk about video games, I can send an email to. I'm like, what does this mean that 2K has it now? And 2K produced basketball games that I loved. Like, I loved all the 2K basketball games and Grand Theft Auto, all the stuff they were producing at the time. So I was just like, what's it gonna be like? And hindsight's 2020 when it comes to this. But you'll get our thoughts next week on that for part 5 of Bryan Williams' journey in wrestling video games, man.
Hey, can I do a quick plug real quick?
Go ahead.
So we mentioned Aubrey Sitterson, who was he was the
community manager.
Community manager. He's a good friend of mine. He's a comic book writer. You guys have probably seen this. Mm-hmm. The comic book story of professional wrestling. My homeboy Aubrey Sitterson wrote this. It's an amazing graphic novel. It's dope as fuck. So I just recommend it if you guys haven't read it or anything. I think there's a Kindle version of it, but definitely check that out. Aubrey's he's one of us, you know.
Oh yeah, he's definitely. I remember he had a podcast. Part of the reason why I have one of these now too. I used to listen to his with Shayna Baszler and a bunch of people on them. See, Aubrey, I was listening, bro. So yeah, man, check that out though. That's definitely a great book to pick up if you're a wrestling fan. And me and Bryan will be back next week to talk WWE 2K14 and 2K15.
Yes, sir.
Peace.
Everyday pro wrestling, they can never be you. Listen to the podcast for the people, the best show that's here, so listen in. Let the knowledge begin, the opinions, the lesson, yes. By the fans, for the fans, not many in this can understand, this the podcast to show you who I am, Conrad Cushman, the legend in the plans, please listen every day to the showcase. The opinions and knowledge that anyone can take, showing you how it is done, proving I am number one, what a legend becomes. This is now my time to show you that I am here. This podcast just to make it loud and clear. By the fans, for the fans, not many who's here can understand everything pro wrestling, they can never be you. Listen to the podcast here for the people, the best show that's here, so listen in. Let the knowledge begin, the opinion and the lesson, yes. Everyday pro wrestling, they can never be you. Listen to the podcast for the people, the best show that's here, so listen in. Let the knowledge begin, the opinions, the lesson, yes.